All right, guys, real quick, I want to go over our sponsors. First up, Healthy Made Easy by Mitchell Thompson. Phenomenal book, making nutrition and a healthier lifestyle, very simplified. Go check it out at Barnes & Noble, Amazon. Also, he has a gym that's open, Combat Cardio KC. They go hand in hand. If you're trying to meet fitness goals, trying to have fun workouts, that's the place to be. They'll get you right over there. Next up, Yup Strength. Love the smelling salts. Love the pre-workout. Best tasting pre-workout I've ever had. The smelling salts are a hit with everybody. Really does wonders for you during the middle of a hard set. Love what he's doing over there, John. Doing a great job. Our last one, Jit Head Athletics. Jeremy, he's doing a great job with that company. Rash guards are fun, good material. They're doing cool stuff over there. All the TBAP merch is over there. If you guys want to help support the show, I greatly appreciate it. We got rash guards, t-shirts, head on over there. It really helps get the name out. So yeah, thanks again to all our sponsors. Thank you to everyone who watches and listens to the show. Please, if you could, like, share, subscribe. It really helps out. And yeah, we'll get back to the show. Monday night too, yeah.
Always something. If
how was your day, dude?
Something else. Chill.
Yeah?
This whole holiday season has been extremely chill. And to my liking. Yeah. I got somewhat of a guilt complex because I didn't spend Christmas with my folks.
Oh, really?
It was the next day after we planned on it. And they're all local here. My mom and dad are in Riverside. My brother and his wife, Parkville, and got another brother and his wife in Hyde Park. But I spent the last week watching my buddy's house out in Spring Hill, his dogs.
Oh, nice, dude.
It's actually, I'm doing a little work for him right now. He owns a construction company and owns two great, Pernice and a German short hair duck hunting dog. Is awesome.
Yeah.
Spent the night out there, but had some shit went down and couldn't leave the house. Mm-hmm. Got 1 month left with a breathalyzer, bro. I've had it for 4 years. I got
really?
1 month to go, and it locked out on me. It was not drinking related. Just didn't get calibrated in time.
4 years,
so
dude?
Yes.
Oh, God.
Dude, had that thing for 4 years, and I never got charged with the DUI.
Oh, really?
It was just one of those deals where I refused to blow. I got a couple in my early 20s, and it was treated as the third.
Really?
But we can go down that story.
How old are you now?
40.
40?
Just turned 40 in September.
And they're going to use that against you from your 20s, bro?
Well, and hearing the attorney talk about it, they've gone back and forth with, there used to be this window where a couple, you could get rid of a couple, but the law keeps, don't even know where to start with all that.
That's crazy.
But it's just like, the guilty part of me was like, I can't drive my car, so I got to chill, Chris. I just got to sit here and chill and just play guitar and read books. And part of me is like, this is a dream come true. Low-key Christmas that I've always wished for, no relatives. And then another part is like, that's not what Christmas is about.
Yeah. You know? Hold on one second. Let me turn off this mic real quick. Hold on. All right, like I was just saying, that might have been the fastest break I had to take, man. We're back. We're working stuff out. We got a bunch of instruments and music equipment here.
Is this the first time you've had gear?
First time, man.
Oh, yeah.
First time. I've had a musician on before, a rapper, and so you'll be the first one that's actually playing instruments, man.
Well, the sound check sounded good.
Yeah. No. It was great, man. Yeah, sounded real good. What were you saying, though? We just left off on that conversation.
Just how Chris was kind of like out of the ordinary this year.
Yeah.
And is just chilling with a bunch of dogs.
Yeah. Are you from the Northland up here?
No, originally from Shawnee, Kansas.
Shawnee,
Kansas. Where I was born.
Okay.
1984.
1984,
But, yeah, I lived down in Shawnee, Kansas. It was like middle school years, right before high school. My folks wanted to start fresh, and they got me up in the Northland. So I did go to Park Hill South.
Oh, did you?
I went to Plaza, Park Hill South, freshman, sophomore year.
Nice.
Eventually talked them into letting me go back to graduate with my buddies.
Shawnee, really?
Shawnee
That's cool.
Northwest.
That's cool. I'll kind of give a little backstory real quick, man. Me and you met at Healy and Gracie, where we do jiu-jitsu at. You've always been a real cool dude. Me and you have had a bunch of cool talks, you know, off, you know, while sitting on the mat, waiting on the next round and stuff.
100%.
So,
catching my breath.
Yeah, catching our breath, man. You know, you start reaching into the 30s and 40s, man. You might have to take an extra round off, you know, to rest up. But nah, man, you've always been a real cool guy, man. I've been following you on social media.
I appreciate that.
Checking out all your stuff. Man, dude, like your voice, man, really, really good, man. Really hits. You kind of got that. We were talking about earlier, that kind of blues. Man, what would you call that? Like blues and I don't know, man.
It's just a conglomeration of just, well, with how I go about music, and we were talking about it. It's like we were talking about Robert Johnson a little bit. And we also talked about the Stray Cats. You were bringing up how there's pain in that guy's voice. You can hear it.
Dude.
So it's a conglomeration of like, you rake in just like all your major influences, and it's different for everybody, but
right.
Like how for me it was, you rake in your influences, but you also rake in your, if you're doing it right, you rake in those life experiences. Some of those are going to be painful or whatever. Yeah. But I was playing, one of my first gigs ever was playing at a restaurant called Frank's in downtown Parkville. It was when Frank McCall was still alive. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing really. But somebody came up to me when I was done. And he was like, man, you got a lot of pain in your voice. And so I've heard that before about mine. And
the way you play the guitar too, man. It's got that sound to it, man, that kind of blues sound to it. You know, I know you don't play all that type of music. I mean, I've seen a wide array of different songs that you play on Facebook, but what you were playing earlier, man, I mean, just really hits, you know, kind of like we were talking about those Red Clay Stray guys. Like, I mean, dude, that guy's what? Probably in his 20s or maybe early 30s.
He's got that old soul.
He's got that old soul in him.
He was listening to those real players back in the day. And not saying that there's not real players today, because there definitely are. Yeah. But I mean, you could just hear it.
It's cool to hear. Soul. Yeah, it's cool to hear that music coming back though, too.
100%.
You know, or maybe it's always been around. Maybe it's just been kind of underground.
It's comforting.
Yeah, I think it is. It is.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? Like when people say that to you, where do you think that comes from, man? Is it just kind of going through life, all the life experiences that you've had? And
well, I was going to make a joke about that guy because it sounded painful because I really didn't know what the hell I was doing. I probably didn't know proper singing until I got a vocal coach later on. But no, that's not necessarily true. It's just like, but it is a little bit of that, right?
Do you think you need a vocal coach? Or do you think some people can just just sing from the heart?
That's the beautiful thing about music, is some people can just sing from the heart. Right. And back then, I was singing from the heart in a lot of situations. I mean, probably most of the time. That's what kind of player I am, try to be. Not saying it's always great, right? But I want to play from the heart, be genuine. Yeah, absolutely. There's some of the greatest players ever just never knew what a C chord was or how to build one. Yeah. I've gone about it where I've had fun with music theory.
Because is it always a worry that a vocal coach could change your style?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, there's a lot of, guitars in the pawn shops. A lot of people quit music lessons early because it might be because of the teacher. It might be because you never know. It might be the student, might be the teacher combination. But I think it's vital to just it's got to be fun, right?
Yeah. When did you start playing music? Like, when did you start getting into that? Was that pretty early?
Not really. I started playing drums my sophomore year of high school. I had, so I got my older brother, Mike.
Sorry, I had to turn that furnace off.
All good. That's nice that you got that. It's convenient.
Yeah, it's convenient.
He got an electric guitar. I got a drum kit. I got my cousin Austin's Pearl Export that he won't use anymore, drum kit for Christmas. And so this is right after I'm getting introduced to, some other bands that I hadn't heard of. Like,
how old were you?
Sophomore in high school.
Sophomore in high school.
Like 15, 16.
But when did, I guess I asked you instruments, but when did music start becoming a thing for you? Like when you were like, oh man, like this is, like I want to go down this road. Was it sophomore year or was it earlier than that?
It's like, I don't know. It's tough for me to say because I always feel like I had a feeling that I wanted to be doing this thing. And I got a few incidents in my early life when I came into a room that had a bunch of instruments and I was like, this feels right. But I never got down that road until sophomore year in high school. It had been the first part. And then I got my first guitar when I was 17.
Right.
But for that to happen, so music was always a big part of my life. I had 3 older brothers and they had me listen to, that turned me into an old soul. Like, I'm listening to Pink Floyd and Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, all those bands from a very early age.
Right.
And then we get into high school. I get that first drum set. Or really, it's before that. It's like 7th and 8th grade.
Oh, so drums was your first.
It was.
Oh,
it was.
Okay.
And I'm glad it happened that way because it established a good sense of rhythm.
Right.
Which I'd recommend to some people,
Yeah, my brother
thinking
plays
about
the
guitar.
drums.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he does the single. Well, he did. He's in college now. I don't think he plays much anymore. But he was
doing school band?
Yeah, so he
Legit.
was doing I don't know, it's just like a drum right in front of him. I don't know what that's called, what type of drum that is. But it wasn't like a whole drum set. You know?
I think it'd be like the bass of the toms or something.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But it's just funny. So I've always had a good music was always getting poured in my ears with having 3 older brothers, like Skinnerd and all that stuff. My dad, I remember driving out to baseball games, listening to a lot of Beatles, listening to a lot of Creedence Clearwater Revival. Mm-hmm. Got me into it. But we were such a sports-driven family. Like the fact that the idea of me owning a guitar before I kind of just went on, honestly started smoking weed, listening to some counterculture bands like the Grateful Dead, Fish. That's eventually what, like, I want to do this.
What kind of sports were you playing?
Football, baseball, and wrestling were the big ones in the family for sure.
Gotcha.
Now, I was the youngest out of 3 older brothers. I mean, and we were sports driven for sure. Brothers were solid, good quarterbacks that both of them, one of them backed up the other in high school, and they both went off to UCM or CMSU.
Oh, that's cool.
KU, Fort Scott, and one played quite a bit, but it was all sports. And then,
things changed.
Yeah. And I was at the point where just being the youngest and these sports were being drilled in my head all the time. Mm-hmm. I go back with some regrets, look back with, some regret. Wish I would have tried a little bit harder and not just given up like I did. Cause I was just like,
yeah, but dude, we all feel that way, about our past, but if we wouldn't be who we are and where we're at right now, if it wasn't for the things that we went through or the mistakes we made. So trust me, I deal with the same thing. There's a lot of regrets that I have that I wish I could change, but you can't, man. You can't. You just got to kind of keep moving and just get better and better and better and try to make the best decisions that you can. I mean, there's really no life guide to this. It's kind of trial and error. So, but nah, man. And so you were playing the drums. That's what you got started with. Okay. How long did you just through high school? I'm guessing.
I guess. So yeah, we're sophomore. I got my first guitar when I was 17, and for the most part, I was self-taught at that point. Mm-hmm. And just learning basic chords, learning some of my favorite songs with like 3-chord structure, simplified versions. And eventually, when I turned about 21, my mom, Kathy Kline, she's always been a artist down in Parkville, Missouri.
Oh, and really?
She owned her own gallery for years. Just closed up shop. She was in the historic train depot. That's like right by English Landing. It's fire department's right here, and the historic train depot, that was her shop.
Yeah.
But even before that, she was, if you're familiar with downtown Parkville, mm-hmm. there's Frank's Italian Restaurant, and on top of that building,
I haven't been there. I've always wanted to go there.
Yeah.
Is it good?
It's a legit Italian spot. I think it was more renowned when Frank was alive, and it was a little more thriving, but it's worth a shot.
Right.
I just love downtown Parkville.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
That's really was my start for music was that place. And Frank, when he was alive, my mom owned this art gallery right above him. He had this cook named Mike Tate, and this dude is just, you could tell he had a rough life, mm-hmm. playing that musician life. And he had been in a band in the early 90s, a band called Presence. They beat out Puddle of Mud and some other bands.
Oh, really?
And so he got to open up for like White Zombie and Pantera. And my mom introduces me to this guy, and he becomes like my first, unofficial teacher.
Yeah.
And to me, it was like I had stars in my eyes. It's just a young kid, and this guy can rip on guitar. He played with Dimebag Darrell and all that stuff. So that was my first taste of like having somebody teach me. And Frank, the owner, after hearing me play a little bit, he didn't hire me to play guitar, but they had just had this piano that was shipped in from New York, out of tune, like octaves of C don't work. Like a bunch of the keys don't work. And he wants a piano player. And he was like, I heard you play a little bit. And I was like, I'm not really a piano player. I know I play like a few chords. And he's like, well, you're the piano player. And it was like 5 days a week. It was every day but Monday, I think. He'd pay me $30 in tips to go in there. And I'd play pretty much like 6-7 songs that were really just progressions that I was kind of trying to survive on.
But he was teaching you?
Nobody. Well, aside, Mike wasn't teaching me. Mike Tate, the cook guitar player, he wasn't teaching me piano. We were playing together guitar, but there just happened to be a piano there, and Frank wanted me to do it, and it was just like.
So you just kind of just figured it out?
And that's kind of been the story of my freaking life with music, bro. It's just like
really
it's like that in a nutshell. It's just how it's always been. It's like I'm just kind of a goofball, the youngest. Always been kind of like the black sheep. I've never found success with much of anything, and besides music, it's just like always seemed to kind of work out. And I figured people would throw shit at me, like not knowing what I'm really doing here, not classically trained anything,
right?
But it worked out. I did that for a couple of years. Me and Mike Tate would go play the American Legion on like a Friday night. Eventually, I was like, all right, I know enough on guitar. Well, I'm going to play guitar and piano in here. And and just did that for a while, and I don't know how much you want me to expand, but
you expand all you want,
like
man.
We were there. I would end up quitting, and it wouldn't be anything big. It would just be like Frank's Italian Restaurant, the American Legion, and a few other gigs in my early 20s. And then I'd quit altogether and wouldn't rediscover music at all.
Right.
Until my early 30s, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I found a freaking great guitar teacher who I still go to.
So what happened in between that time period?
A lot of freaking partying and a lot of stupid shit. A lot of drinking. I fell into some bad habits.
Yeah.
We can talk about it as much as you want.
Yeah, man. Open up about it.
And I figured.
So, but yeah. after you kind of got the piano down, you got the guitar down, you're kind of doing little gigs here and there at the American Legion. It just kind of tapered off after that.
It tapered off, yeah. And that's just the kind of. I didn't have much, discipline in my life in those years, and always been a freaking dreamer. And
just your 20s. I mean, like everybody, man. I mean, fuck, dude. I did a lot of crazy shit too during my 20s. So.
And it would freaking build up. And there was no, I mean, you ask any of my friends, it's just, I've absolutely a dreamer, kind of a goofball, didn't have a lot of structure in my life. I've gotten a little bit better with that, but I've learned to play with my strengths and realize that's, since then I've established some things and ideas, and we were talking earlier about those regrets. And if I can go back and say that, I do feel like everything has worked out for a reason.
Oh yeah.
And music came back to me in my 30s, and that's where just like I started to establish some real goals and a sense of like meaning in my life.
What do you think, and expand as much as you want, what do you feel comfortable with?
Yeah.
What do you think kind of led you off during your 20s? So was it just the partying, or was it stuff you were dealing with? Or
I think it was just
being a kid in his 20s?
Unprocessed shit. I mean, I definitely don't want to play, there's so many people out there that have gone through so much, and you meet some great friends at Jiu Jitsu. It's just given me so much more perspective on life.
Yeah.
And just
what other people go through.
Yeah. But
Yeah, because that's the thing, man, is that a lot of us at the gyms, we're kind of, we all kind of have a story of what kind of brought us there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
not saying everybody, but a lot of
Yeah.
people I've talked to. It's kind of a way to kind of, how would I describe this? Kind of let out what's kind of built up inside of us, you know.
Leave it on the mat.
Leave it on the mat, you know. Yeah, just the bond that you kind of have with some of the other guys and girls there. You're able to talk to afterwards and kind of sort things out and bounce ideas off of one another and put things into perspective on like what others are going through. And, you know, it almost makes you feel like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't, you know, not complain, but like, don't give myself a hard time about stuff, or don't kind of sit in this echo chamber of my own and make it seem like I'm the only one, you know, like there's a ton of people out there that are going through shit.
100%.
And it's almost in a weird way relieving that you don't feel like alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I mean, that's been a big thing, what it's done for me. And I'm sure you feel the same way. It's just being able to, you know, not only what it does to us mentally, letting out all that built up energy, you know, and leaving that on the mats.
Yeah.
But as well as afterwards being able to have those discussions and those talks with one another. And it's almost like a form of therapy in a sense.
100% for me, because some of the stuff we'll get into, you know, substance abuse or whatever it was, or just that terrible habits of like letting negative thoughts just consume my mind and cycle. And the jiu-jitsu has been like a godsend, and has, you know, it's helped me with my ego. It's helped me with confidence. It's helped me with, you know, stress management, leaving that stuff on the mat, hearing other people's stories, bonding with people, opening up. It's just been huge.
Oh, yeah.
And some of these things that I was hanging on to, I was defining myself as them. And I've realized since then, I'm way bigger than that. I'm not going to be defined as some of these setbacks.
Yeah. So during your 20s, you know, I know you said you were going through a lot. Did you completely leave out music during that time period, or were you still playing here and there?
I think here and there. But no, I wouldn't find it hardly any consistency. It'd just kind of be here and there, and just a goof, man. I'd be drinking and eventually would run into Xanax and antidepressants, and just took those the last way you want to take them. You know, just mixing and eventually just taking them daily and abusing. Yeah. But it all came from unprocessed crap from childhood. You know, I'd say so. Lost a brother early on. If I could just start from the beginning, give me just kind of
give me context.
So earlier from Shawnee, Kansas, and raised in a middle class family, good family. My parents, Jim, Kathy, they're still together and married for 50 years. But we're at a point in 1990 where we're living in Shawnee, and they have 4 boys, to my mom's detriment. Eventually, and it's tolling on her now, but so they have me. I'm 5, 6 at the time. My middle brother Mike, who's now 42, 43. Brad, 45, 46, and then Jimmy. And they get a knock on the door. Wee hours. Jimmy had been, you know, killed in a car accident.
Oh shit!
Drinking and driving. My mom pulls us into the room, and that. You know, up until that point, our family was just doing comfortable. Everything was perfect. I mean, just known as like the nice Kline family there, where mom's teaching art, dad's up on the rise, accounting firm about to get bought out by one of the nation's bigger accounting firms, RSM. But they just like that, they get that knock on the door, and I remember like it was yesterday, getting called into the parents' room. And
how old were you at the time?
It was 1990. I'm 40 now. Born in 84. I think I'm 5. Yeah. And it was kind of a big deal. I remember, like, Jimmy was loved. That was for certain. Like all the students, it didn't matter if they were freaks or
And he was
sports
the oldest?
He was the oldest.
Oh,
He was
okay.
18 at the time.
Okay.
Just around graduation,
Uh-huh.
And, but yeah, I remember that, like, all the students come to our yard with the candles for the vigil, and newscast came to my house. He had, this connects, but I found a way. I might want to play it for you tonight, but he had written a poem, like, in one of his classes just a couple months before he passed. It's called Living Circles.
Uh-huh.
Worked for like 10 years trying to find a way to get into a song. I finally made it happen.
Really?
But, and however it plays out, but it's finally a song that I'm somewhat happy with, like the musical progression behind the lyrics. But I remember that the newscast would come, and we were sitting in our living room, and they were interviewing our family, and they asked me at the end, my mom asked me what Jimmy's favorite song was, and I said Simple Man. And so they played Simple Man while they scrolled off his poem on the newscast, and we can get to that later. But
and so what happened? He was just, he was drinking and driving.
Him and a buddy, they were driving out on
just high school kids,
right around the 435 Midland area out in Shawnee, right where Shawnee meets Lenexa earlier. Just lost control of the car going too fast, and
one wrong move, man. That's. I have a 14-year-old, so she's going into high school.
What's her name?
Eliana. Yeah, and I'm nervous, man.
Absolutely.
I'm nervous. She's such a good kid, but we were both in high school at one time, and just any wrong move, any just wrong choice, and just boom,
not a lot of margin for error.
Yeah, you could just impact your entire life, man. I think we all know somebody. A lot of people do know somebody. Especially around that time. Like me personally, I had a friend of mine. He wasn't killed, but he killed somebody in a drinking and driving accident, and the devastation it has on a family. I was there in the courtroom when that all happened, and I was very sad for my friend, but at the same time, how can I be so sad for him when I'm looking over at the family, and they actually lost their loved one for no reason, and it's horrible, man.
It's heavy.
Yeah. And I told him the same thing. Like, even, I was like, hey man, I love you, bud, but you made a bad choice. I know you were young at the time. 'Cause this was, I don't even know, probably 15 years ago, maybe around 13 years ago, probably.
Yeah.
And it's like, someone lost their life, man, from one bad decision that you made.
Absolutely.
And it scares me, man. It definitely worries me. And, but all you can do is hope that they'll make the right choice and call me, to go get them or, say no or whatever, like just to walk away, not succumb to peer pressure, but it's hard when you're that age.
Well, because it exists and it's there in the, and it's just one time you can be perfect. 99 times, and
that one thing.
Yeah. And if I could circle back, I did when we started the podcast. If that caught what I was saying about the breathalyzer, it's the DUIs and stuff like that aren't something I take lightly.
No,
I'm not a big drinker anymore. I don't condone drinking and driving, but that is a huge scare out there for the young ones.
I get it, man. I get it. And the older you get, you see that stuff. When you're younger, it's kind of hard to understand that. And you're out, you're able to drive, you're able to go out and party. You don't really think I'll be fine, I'll be all right, I'm good. And then it just takes that one time. You drink too much, and then shit happens, man. And that's I'm sorry about your brother, man. That's
sure.
That's got to be hard. I see what you're saying now about some stuff that you had to deal with from back then.
Well, that's not really where I'm going. And sure, we had our memories, but let's be realistic. I'm 5 or 6 at the time. It's not like it's a generational thing at that age. I think just seeing how my mom dealt with it, how just the family goes on from there. I find out years later how hard they struggled with it. Like, I look up to my parents so much,
I couldn't imagine.
Because I can't imagine, dude. I don't have any kids yet. I came close with the ex, but I couldn't go on parenting three. At least I don't know how I could. 3 other children after losing the first.
Yeah, you got to be strong because it's not their fault. You know, it's like you have to be strong for them. You can't just give up because you're hurt. You know, I couldn't imagine either. Like, I think I put myself in their shoes. If I lost my oldest, you know, what would I do for my, you know what I mean? Because you're lost. You're lost. You don't know. You don't know what to do. You want to be able to dwell and just lose yourself in life, you know, to stop yourself from thinking about that moment every day.
Yeah.
But you can't. You got to be there. You got to be present. You got to be able to take care of the other children. And how the hell do you do that?
Just like when you have a bad day and you're waking up from, you're like, oh shit, it wasn't a dream. And just having to wake up over and over again. Freaking, my mom, she's so sweet, but I'd hear her story of just like having to go identify. And just like those details. But it's just, that's what.
How did she handle all that? I mean, your father,
like
and your
a
mother.
freaking boss, you know.
Really?
She starts up Sunday school teaching, and that was her way of coping.
Right.
But my parents didn't get divorced; they're still together, and that's a thing. And that's divorce.
You said they got divorced?
Did not.
Oh, they didn't.
To their I mean, divorce rate's high and something like that. It's just hard to.
Yeah. So they were able to still. That's good, man. Because a lot of the times that'll split up a relationship. Yeah. You know, because you're both dealing with hurt, and then you kind of detach and, you know, isolate yourselves. That's good that they stayed together, you know, and helped support each other.
100%. 50 plus years now.
Yeah. So where do you think, so you're saying you're 5 or 6. I understand at that age, I don't remember much from 5 or 6. I mean, I see my daughter, my youngest is 6. She's there. She's present. She knows who her sister is. I couldn't imagine one day if her sister was not there, you know. Right. It had to have it has to take a toll on you when you get older. But you said it wasn't just that, it was other things as well.
Well, yeah.
So it was just seeing your mother and your father and your brothers, you know.
And just, it sets a course.
It changed everything.
It sets a course. And I don't think our family was just always be like the family that's just like, we're going to tough this thing out no matter what comes ahead of us, instead of like seeking out help or anything like that.
Yeah.
A lot of over the years, I've just tried to, like, after some incidents, I was like, all right, I want to become a better person. And I want to take care of some of these issues, cope with things head on instead of taking substances. Yeah. And I'm like, so I do some research and I'm like, yeah, why didn't we deal with this a different way? Why didn't we, why would therapy or mental health awareness be so frowned upon back then, or anything like that? Or should we have taken some different directions? And we dealt with, our family dealt with depression. Like growing up, my brothers had it, and I dealt with it a little bit of anxiety, and that would later go into, like, you know, substances, getting diagnosed with anxiety, just starting to take antidepressants and Xanax, and starting to mix it and just deal with processing things the wrong way. Deal with things the wrong way is how I went about it for a long time. And until shit like, like, you know, those come to Jesus moments are finally happen is not until 30. And that's when it kind of changed, started to turn my life around and clean up.
What made you change?
Well, always been in the system. Johnson County, grew up in Johnson County, and whether it was DUIs or prior to that, minor impossessions or fights or whatever, I was just always been in the system. And that would lead up to, you know, it started to hit the fan when I got the Xanax and I started to drink all the time, because that would happen. I mean, that put me in a position where I'm blacking out, going out, and it's not like I was going out looking for fights, but I finally found this medicine that can help the spastic me just kind of chill out and have a real conversation with people. And but it's such a fine slippery slope you got to walk, because just the right amount of booze over it just it multiplies the effect. Xanax and booze is real dangerous, and I found myself in many situations like blacked out and injured, something I'm not proud of, right?
Yeah.
And then let me tell this story. So, and like 2015, I had a friend in California, and he was trimming weed, and that was the answer for me at the time. You know, things weren't going well and wasn't doing much, probably working some dead end job. And I was like, okay, this gives me a chance to drive out to California and party and trim a little weed and escape. Mm-hmm. And so I go out and do that, and it lasts for like 3 months or whatever. It doesn't last long, but it's fun, you know. But I decided to come home, and it's right around Thanksgiving. And I drive back all the way from California to Kansas City. And it was a crazy road trip. We can get back into that later. But I have a friend in town, and he's living with another friend, and that friend owns a company, landscaping company. And they're all going out for the Christmas party, and they invite me along. And I can tell early off, we start at this bar, that it's probably not the right place to be. These, you know, kind of a shady crowd. They're kind of looking for trouble. I convince my friend to leave. So we go to another bar. And I do tie one on, and I take a Xanax that night. And so we get back to his house about an hour later, and I think he goes up to his room, and I'm in the kitchen, like, cooking food. Yeah. And the next thing I remember, dude, I'm on a driveway, and I'm getting my head kicked in.
Oh, shit.
And I wake up, and I become belligerent, and I'm like, I'm still drunk, and I'm getting passionate. I'm like, what the is going on? And I'm like screaming at him, like taunting at him at this point. And then I feel something in my leg, and fight or flight kicks in. And the next, I'm just spring loaded, and I jump to my feet. I hit a guy. He's getting up. I kick him. All my clothes are tattered. I don't have shoes. Don't know what the hell's going on. And this is alcohol and Xanax. Like, this is just confusion. And go around to the door, and I'm trying to investigate, find out what's going on. I'm banging on it, and nobody comes to the door. And I'm so belligerent, I bang so hard the glass breaks, the top panels up here, until eventually I see sirens. I'm like, thank God. Walk toward the sirens, thinking I'm saved. They're like, get down on your knees. Several of them. And they're checking my body, and they're like, he's cut. And they handcuff me, and which I don't know why. And I'm like freaking out from the very beginning. Then they take me to a hospital, handcuff me to the hospital bed, and they're working on me. And I'm belligerent still. I'm like, what is going on? Why am I arrested? Take me to the jail. And freaking out the whole time until eventually I get bonded out. And I'm driving with this guy to eventually would be the house arrest. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what is going on? He was like, you put that guy into a drug-induced coma.
Oh, shit.
And I'm like, well, I was getting attacked, and I got stabbed. And when I was saying I was stabbed, and this police officer just like laughing at me. He's like, you didn't get stabbed. And and so I get bonded out, and my brothers are driving me home. I don't know what the hell's going on. But my parents and everybody else and the police hear a completely different story from what I remember. And the attorney's there the next day, and he was like, yeah, they said that you were hiding behind the bush, you attacked this guy and put him into a drug-induced coma, and you're looking at 4 years in prison. And so this is too much for my head. And I'm hungover, and I'm freaking probably going through Xanax withdrawals already at this point, and just like shaking, and like mind's in the worst place. And it's just like months later, we find my attorneys are able to debunk their story that I was hiding behind this bush. The investigative officer, how he thought I cut my leg, and this cut, it was a big gash, and they were right down close to my femoral artery.
Oh, shit.
He thought, though, that I kicked way up on this door and like kicked through the top panels of glass. But I went to a wound specialist, and they were like, well, you would have had scrapes all over your shins if had that happened. And we're looking at this wound, and it didn't happen that way. And eventually, when the police officers, the guy that I hit, he did have a slip wound where the blade slipped in the webbing of his hand and cut him. So after that, the prosecutor and my attorneys, and I know I fast forwarded through so much.
No, you're good.
The prosecutor and my attorneys were like, well, he can take a plea deal for probation. And I'm like wanting to go to court, but the money at this point is just stacking high, and it's not mine. You know, I'm relying on folks. It's just a terrible situation. And turned out that there were 3 of them jumped me at the time. I'll never know, you know. That's Xanax. You just black out. You really don't know. And sadly, it's like.
But they did attack you.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Okay.
And I know it's cut from the cloth that they were probably out looking for blood and looking for trouble.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know. One of the guys involved, he was going to be a key witness in this other case that my prosecutor was working to, as some rapper got killed, and he's a key witness in it. It was just, this whole thing was dirty, and it was going on for months. And to expand on it, like, I left my key at that place, you know, at the house that day I got arrested. All my belongings were inside. So I woke up like 2 or 3 days later. I'm on house arrest, and my mom comes down. She's like, "Where's your car?" She's like, I didn't take it. I've been on fucking bedridden. Yeah. They came up and stole my car.
Oh, shit.
I think there was some threatening going on. It was just like parents staying at their place while this is going on. They get cameras installed.
How old were you at the
stressful.
time?
So this is 2015.
Oh, okay.
I'm 40 now. To say.
Okay. So like 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right
29, 30. Yeah.
And that I'd say is just come to Jesus moment where I just like, okay, I need to change. And that.
Whatever happened to the guy?
You know, so we're going through trial and stuff, and he was there for the first few hearings, and eventually he stopped coming because he was in jail for another case.
Oh, really?
You know? And I've never been just being, one thing that I'd find out through jiu-jitsu is just like how much tension I've carried like my whole life.
Right.
I think like I've been in tons of those scuffles, but I never started one. I never went out looking for fight, trying to look for blood, trying just to beat somebody up.
Just happened to be at the wrong places.
Wrong place, wrong time. But I think a lot of it was just carrying so much tension for whatever it was. Like, you've seen me roll. I don't know if you were there in the beginning, but I used to have the nickname Meth Cat.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because I was just going fucking balls in, just like a stiff board the whole time. I didn't know how to loosen up. Yeah. I never know how to loosen up throughout my whole life, bro. I've just been a kind of a spastic dude.
Hey, man, they talk shit about that, but sometimes I feel like you need that, man. Like that, embrace the spaz.
Well,
man.
I do sometimes. It's like,
yeah, because they talk shit all the time about like white belts being spazzy and stuff like that. It's like, man, we're fighting, dude. Come on, man. Like, who gives a fuck? I get it. Not like over time you want to get better technique and slow down, flow a little bit so you can learn more. But man, there's nothing like a good scrap, like a good scrappy roll.
You feel good afterwards.
Yeah, man. Catch 100%. A couple elbows in the face, man. It's all good.
Did you feel alive?
Yeah, I feel alive, man.
100%.
That's what I was telling. Who was I telling that to today? My buddy Sam at work. Because I went to a live on Sunday and went against.
Is that down in
downtown?
Yeah,
downtown. Beautiful gym, man. Beautiful gym. And I go down there every now and then to catch their open mats because it's packed. And I went down there this last Sunday, went against one of Vava's purple belts. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was like one of those like, "What's up, man? How you doing?" He's like, "What's up?" Like, just like serious, you know? I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, let's go. And he just gave me a good scrap, man, like a good hard roll, man, like no nonsense, no playing around. Like, I need those. Yeah. You know what I mean? I love the playful ones and the fun flow rolls or just the equal, just like, hey, we're just rolling. But sometimes like Actually, more than sometimes. I like to at least get a couple in each time I go to class, but I need those hard rolls. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Kind of like you, Ryan, Logan, like all these guys. And there's more than that. I can't name all of them, but fucking Luke, man. Luke's my boy, man. I love Luke, dude. He's such a good guy.
Alex.
Alex.
Both out.
All of them, Joe. I mean, there's so many those type of guys, man, that just like you feel afterwards like, and I know it sounds corny to some people, but you know, when you get a little beat up, man, it just feels good. You know, Absolutely. It feels like you did something.
Well, when I was meth cat, dude, I was going against Zach.
I love
Luke's
that
buddy.
meth cat. Who called you that? Was that Andrew?
I think so.
Yeah,
or Buck or something. But it suits me well.
Yeah.
But
here, I'm gonna grab a couple waters. Keep going.
Absolutely. But I got my ass handed to me, dude, and I show up. It's the first day there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to prove myself. I'm supposed to like go fucking all out.
Yeah.
And a dude named Zach, he was a wrestler at Oak Park. And
I remember Zach.
And just tossing me.
Yeah.
But I felt so good after. You get your ass kicked, but you feel good about it. So.
Yeah. I remember the first time I met Zach, he like clubbed the shit out of me, dude. Like came up out of open guard or did something, just came up and clubbed me, dude. It was one of those ones where it hits you and it just goes all the way down your body, dude. Yeah. That tingly sensation. I was like, all right, let's go. Let's go, man.
Okay. Well, listen to this. So he aggravated a neck injury that scared the shit out of me. But
really?
The beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu is like it all works. It feels like my neck's worked out. I don't have any issues with it at all. But going back to my Xanax and alcohol issues, another huge injury. Or not huge, but just wrestling. I used to have this buddy named Tommy. Tommy Miller. But he was a great football player. He was a middle linebacker at Northwest Missouri State. But we're just 3 sheets to the wind in his freaking plaza, small house, little bungalow, wrestling in the freaking kitchen. And he does some like WWF move. My head goes straight down to the freaking hardwood floor. I'm like 2 days later and I can't move. And I eventually go to get an MRI. I go to my doctor and he's like, have you ever broke your neck before?
Oh, shit.
I'm like, no, what the fuck? And he was like, you might want to go have an MRI. And so I go and I get it done. And it's kind of a funny story. I get it done. And they were like, she comes, I'm waiting forever. And a nurse finally comes back and gets me. She's like, come with me. And they're like, okay, follow me. Okay, we're going to put you in this room right here. And I'm like, all right. And they shut the door. And I look around and it's like, I've never been in a room like this. It's a small triangular room. It's tiny. And thank you.
Huh?
And there's like a box of Kleenexes and a little chair and that's it. I'm like, I got fucking cancer or something. That's what they're going to tell me. They got some bad news for me. And
scared as fuck.
Scared. But they eventually come get me and they're like, yeah, you fractured your C7 vertebral body. I was like, well, that's better than cancer.
What is that? What you fractured your what?
My C7 vertebral body.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's right up. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm wearing one of those neck cones that's my funny story. But it just going to show you that, and I could keep going. I got a long list of just crazy, stupid injuries.
Yeah. The next
from drinking and Xanax, bro.
The next stuff sucks, man. Like the back. I deal with the L4, L5 issue. You remember a couple of bulging discs I'd got?
Yeah.
The lower back.
I'm sure that's painful.
Oh man, dude. I've competed too on that shit, man. At the little local tournaments that we've done, and man, it just changes the entire game, dude. It's like your whole body. It just like you forget how much you rely on your back to do anything, and especially your lower back. I don't know how the upper, like your upper neck feels like. But when it's inflamed or when it's bulging, because I'm guessing that's what you fractured it, or what would you say happened?
Fractured it. Yeah.
So I can't imagine the pain that what comes from that. But bulging disc, man. Oh, dude, it sucks, man. I mean, you realize like you can't do much with it. You can't. It just changes. It changes everything, man. The way you walk, the way you fucking roll, the way you sit down. I mean, it sucks, man.
Just those kind of situations. It was just like,
yeah, it sucks, dude. So all that shit happens, man. And then, so what? You get off and you're good After all that incident, that whole incident happened?
With
the guy that ended up in the coma? I know we kind of spider-webbed off of that.
Whew. And so that just started a long time. That something clicked in my head, and that's when I started to focus on,
Yeah, but everything, like the whole, like what the guy, like what hell happened? Everything got dropped, or what happened?
Okay, so yeah, we took the plea deal. I went in, we decided we were going to take the 2-year plea deal, 2-year probation plea deal, and I was against it at the time. I didn't have much. If I would have testified for myself, which I couldn't have because I was on Xanax and alcohol, my fate's in the hands of the jury,
right?
And they could have seen me as the instigator. They could have just, who knows?
What was the plea deal?
Just 2 years of probation as opposed to possibly like 4 years of prison.
Oh yeah.
And
that always sucks though. You have to be put in that position to where like,
well, I had to say, yes.
If you fight it, the likelihood of them like enough evidence to show that you were right is not there, or
exactly
like it could, who knows who you're going to get, they may have a better lawyer than you, you just never know.
It's that.
So you're like
the die maybe. And
play it safe and I'll just take the plea deal. It's like, man, is that really justice?
It didn't feel like it at the time, but I look back at it now, like I was absolutely an idiot, and I put myself in that situation. It was all preventable.
But you said you weren't looking for trouble, right?
I wasn't looking for trouble, but
you could have made the choice to not be there.
I just wasn't.
Or maybe you would have made better decisions not on the stuff that you were on. Maybe.
I just wasn't disciplined enough to be thinking in that way. Just like I need to think about my future. I wasn't thinking about my future. It was just like, no, I wouldn't have been out looking for a fight, but I'm an adult. And I need to make sure I'm not just going to get mopped up by some people. And
so that incident right there is kind of what changed everything.
It would be the start. And so from then on, I'm a felon. All of a sudden, it's tough. I'm having a tough time finding a job. My dad, through some of his clients, is able to find me a sales job, and I'm working that for a while. I meet a girl that I would go on to have like a 5-6 year relationship with, and we moved in together and got a house, or renting a house together. She had a daughter. Eventually that would bring us to COVID and sort of develop all kinds of problems. And I was still drinking quite a bit. Eventually I was sitting just downstairs. I was like, I want to pick up the guitar again. It's taking me forever to get back to it. I'm sorry. And
no, you're good.
I want to pick up the guitar again. And I'm like, shit, I've never taken lessons really. And I did a Google search for guitar teacher. I found a guy named James Stevens that's just like a quarter mile down from my house. And I called him, and I remember our conversation just like it was yesterday. And I would start taking lessons from him, and I owe him everything. He changed my life. Just this dude that's probably I think James is in his 50s now, but he was teaching, college instructor, and has his bachelor's and master's in music. And
how'd you find him again?
I think it was.
You're just looking around
for it? I used to work for Home Advisor. What's that other one? There's Home Advisor, and there's something else that's like links you up with a contractor or a teacher or something like that.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It was something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it was just quarter mile down from my house, and I'm convinced that I could not have found a better teacher. Isn't
it weird how the stars align like that sometimes?
And the stars aligned. Bro.
That's how I felt with jiu-jitsu. Like I fell out of it from 2019, like when I was going to 10th Planet back in the day.
Yeah.
And then I fell out of it for like 4, or whenever I started back up here at Healing.
What happened? So what got you back in?
That's what I'm saying. The stars aligned. I seen that that gym was opening down the street. I just happened to come across it on Facebook. And I was like, holy fuck, dude, they're opening up a gym here in Gladstone. And I had already known that there was the gym down the street, Ignite, which I had been by there years back, but I just didn't get up and go again. But when I seen that one open, I was like, brand new gym, opportunity.
Yep.
Like, I'm gonna jump for it. And that's when I did. Like I just, first class they opened up, I was there and then never left. So like that's what I'm saying. Sometimes like how that teacher was a quarter mile, you said, down the street from your house. Yeah. Like sometimes when those opportunities come up, you just can't think. You just got to jump and just go for it,
And that changed everything.
Yeah.
And before we go, like go hard into that. I got to say with my jiu-jitsu story is like, I started out, I got friends, and I need to do a better job keeping up to date with them or staying in touch with Kaz and Trisha Terada, bosses in the jiu-jitsu world. Kaz just turned black belt. I think Trisha's still a purple belt, but they're solid people. And they talked me into it. They had seen me play at some gigs. They hired me, and very supportive, played some private gigs at their house, teaching their boys lessons for a little bit.
Oh, that's cool.
But Kaz opened have you heard of the Mat Champions? It's out there in Corbin Park.
I don't think so.
Place is awesome.
Okay.
Been out there for some open mats.
How far is that from here?
Shit. I'm an OP. It's like 10 minutes. I'd say it's like 35-minute drive.
Oh, okay. That's not bad.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like 135th and 69 highway. If that makes sense.
Is that in Olathe?
Yeah. Well, it's considered, I guess it's Leawood or Overland Park. But it's right there.
I think I have heard of that gym, or maybe I've seen it cool on Facebook. Yeah.
And they got some good instructors, but there's just something about, and it was so hard for me to say, I'm not going with you. I'm going with John Monk and these guys up here just called me. It's like Gladstone, this gym, or Healing and Gracie is just, I love the people up there, bro.
If you're out in OP,
yeah.
So how the hell did you end up in Gladstone?
That's what I'm saying. So, I was going to KC BJJ. Is that what it was before?
Yeah.
And like my friend Kaz,
it still is. It's still over there off of Johnson Drive. I think that's what they're on. Or somewhere over there.
They're in Mission.
Mission,
Drive.
Yeah.
I used to live right by there.
Yeah, I've been there once. It's a good gym. I like that gym. Yeah.
It is. I think a guy named Jason runs that, and he's
solid. He's a good guy.
Yeah. Anyways, Kaz talked me into going up there, and I never in a million years would have thought I would. I had some wrestling experience, but I did. And that's where I met John Monk, and he was rolling with Derek.
Oh, okay.
And
I met Derek.
And John was
done a lot of private.
John's one of my favorite people of all time now, and I'm not saying we're close. I'm just saying I admire John. I love John Monk.
Yeah.
I think what he's done for Kansas City's awesome.
Yeah.
Just some people around here, it's helped out my life tremendously.
Yeah.
But so he was just like right out of the gate. I don't even know his name, but he's like, "Here, I'll help you with this. I'll help you with this." And then I find out that he's opening up a gym. I find out that's probably my best option as far as money goes, because I need something affordable.
Right.
Worked out.
That's awesome, dude. That's really cool. Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, how the hell did you end up over here?
But it was hard to tell. Cause no, it was just all about the feeling that the stars are aligning. And
dude, but if like the same thing with 10th Planet, like Jeremy and Blake, you know, they're the coaches over there. You know, they own the 10th Planet. They never once gave me shit, dude, for going to Helion. Never once. And they stayed in contact with me through the years, checking in on me. Hey, man, how you doing? You know, we miss you at the gym. And when they heard that I was going back there, or I probably told them, you know, we reconnected, they never said, well, why don't you come here? Why are you going over there? Never, dude. Right. They were just super happy that I stayed in. Like, I got back into it, man. Like, super supportive. And I remember Jeremy, I'll never forget this. He told me, he's like, brother, I don't care where you go. He's like, I just want you to keep doing jiu-jitsu.
And Cause is the same way.
Yeah, like that. It doesn't. And people like that, man, I just super supportive, man. Like it makes you feel good, you know.
I needed it. Yeah. With all the stupid shit that I got myself into, I was in a point where I wasn't socializing with anybody. Yeah. It was hard to meet friends. It was hard to go do dude things and talk and have those conversations. So it's something that I needed.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you discover the teacher, right? That's going to help you.
Yeah. Okay. And then I find out that I'm capable of doing something. Up until this point, dude, my life was it just amounted to nothing. Just not having any meaning or not having any ambition.
What are you doing for work? You just different jobs here and there?
Random jobs. Like I had fun doing what I was doing. Like that was a sales job. I worked for Home Advisor. I worked for a company called Sunlight, and where I sold infrared sonic companies. That's where I met the ex-girlfriend. Worked for a scale company. That was interesting. You just go into all these manufacturing facilities. It could be BE Aerospace, where they produce oxygen masks for airplanes, or it could be like a pharmaceutical company where they can do on gram scales, or you cut off a piece of your hair, they divide it in 10, still weigh it out. Or a big, like a cattle company where we're scraping off shit at the bottom of these scales so we can clean off the load cells. But you know how you're saying like you weren't
you were just bouncing around, not doing much.
Yeah.
But sometimes, man, like, I think that's cool. You got to
I got something to write about now, bro.
It's a bunch of different things you got to experience, a bunch of different people you probably got to meet, a bunch of different stories you got to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, instead of working that one job for 40 years, you know, in that one cubicle where you just did your job and that was it. And it's like, man, you kind of like, granted, yeah, would it be nice to have the financial, you know, benefits from having a job like that, you know, or the security and the benefits that come along with it? Yeah, it'd be great. But man, sometimes when you look back on that deathbed, you know, you're like, man, you know, what did I do? You know, did I get to really live and experience stuff? And, you know, we're all going to experience good and bad, but I don't know. It's just, it's cool to kind of live that. I mean, I guess I wouldn't call it much like not a nomad life, but just like being able to go out there and bounce around and check things out and see what you like and see what you can feel out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and going on to what we were saying, going back to the pain in a singer's voice, and somehow that's how it's established. Sometimes it's just going out and experiencing life. And we talk about regret too, and shit happens for a reason. I'm in a much better place now.
It's good. And I'm sure music helped you with that.
Oh, dude, it's so much. And so with after meeting James and getting an idea of how my guitar playing would go, and learning the instrument and getting gigs around Kansas City and getting busy up to the point where, I mean, I've out for 5 years, and I'm in a transitional period right now, but for 5 years I was able to support myself and not rich by any means, but pay rent, pay my small rent, pay bills. But I had my days to myself, and I could focus on making myself better, and not just music. I could focus on, okay, so I'm a spastic person. I got just nerve issues. I should learn how to breathe. And I freaking went on this, you know, mental health journey, learning like Wim Hof and like non-sleep deep rest that Dr. Andrew Huberman recommends and stuff like that. And some of these things have been so huge, and some of them has like been a synergetic like experience with like doing this Wim Hof stuff and holding my breath is helping my diaphragm for singing. And just having a lot of fun coming up with some life goals and expectations of myself, and finding meaning in things, and just in a better place than I was.
So he kind of helped you get back on track on that with the music stuff, and then the music stuff led into you kind of going down the road of working on yourself.
Yeah, I mean, in a very small, in a elevator way. Yeah, I mean, I just started out with, okay, I'm capable of playing this instrument.
You started, so you ended up getting on the guitar this time, right? In your 30s. Had you played the guitar prior to that?
Well, yeah, I started when I was 17. And I was doing it just here in this self-taught.
I know you said you started with the drums.
So drums, 16. I picked up my first guitar, owned a guitar, started playing at 17, self-taught. Right. But that weird shit at Frank's also had me playing the piano. That's what confused it a little bit. But I'd play the guitar self-taught, just basically playing some simple, like, chordy songs. But when I met my teacher, that's when I read, and he's a classical style teacher, so that would have me learning like rhythm and like how to read music.
Because before that, how were you learning the guitar?
You can get on like apps or just like
but back then when you were like 17,
just internet and just learning like chords, like above lyrics, it might just say a G, and that means you play a G chord here and then a C chord. Where like sheet music, you have note values.
I was just thinking, because back then, I mean, I feel like the internet, you know, it was, I mean, what would that be? 17. So probably what you were in.
Yeah, I was
2000s, mid 2000s.
Probably just like right around the beginning of that.
Yeah, I would say because more back then, like even when I was working on my car back then, like I was buying, like, don't get me wrong, the internet was still prevalent when I was 16, but, you know, because that would have been, you know, mid 2000s for me. But like, I remember I had a book for my first car, like from the AutoZone. You know, you used to get the books and it'd tell you how to work on your car, what part goes where.
Crazy.
Yeah. So like I was kind of wondering, like, how were you teaching yourself? Were you buying books and stuff like that? But you were finding stuff on the internet too back then?
Yeah. You could find, just simple chord sheets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's dope. That's dope.
Or chord books.
So you're doing that, then you meet him, and he basically opens up your eyes to
100%.
the education side on music. Yeah, learn how to read.
And just somebody to talk. He became like more than a teacher, just a mentor. And found out that, going back to just being in a sports family and not a lot of experience. Sometimes I still struggle with thinking of myself as a singer. If I tell somebody that, obviously not, I haven't found fame or anything like that. It's just, it's just that didn't grow up that way. So, I mean, it was the first time having a mentor like that, and we could relate with some stuff that I formerly wasn't able to relate about, just not having many, musician teachers.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's good. Then you find him. So you go on, you're working with him. You start to kind of figure things out. Why gravitate to the guitar out of all the instruments that you were playing?
It just called to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just the people who I've really looked up as musicians, they were playing the guitar, whether that was like David Gilmour from Pink Floyd, and not that I'm a huge fan of Roger Waters and his lyrics, but a guitar player, and Trey Anastasio from Phish, Jerry Garcia from the Dead, Martin Knopfler from the Dire Straits. They were the front men. I mean, I think the front men, with the melodic solos, and that was calling my name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah.
As much as I loved playing other instruments. Yeah.
Yeah. Now the guitar's always stuck out to me too. I mean, you've seen mine over there. I tried, man, but it's fucking hard.
And
dude.
it could be the approach too, man.
Yeah.
I'd love to teach you some chords sometime.
Dude, I'd super appreciate it, man. Because, I tried to self-teach, try to be self-taught, learning on YouTube videos, man. It's a lot harder than you think.
Well, you got to think.
And time. That's another thing. Is you got to have time. You got to at least dedicate, what would you say, an hour a day, maybe?
No. And that's and 10 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, and you think about 10 minutes a day is so much better than 5 hours just one day.
Oh, yeah.
Because muscle memory is such a huge part of guitar. But if you literally just, it's tough to find the time. But if you can sit there and just work through, I can give an example, but just working out each finger, just going up a scale and just working that muscle memory just a little bit.
Yeah.
It just over time.
And working out the coordination.
Yeah, and I need to listen to my own advice because, if I could just pick it up for a few minutes each day, just keep everything limber.
How much do you think you play a day or a week? A couple times a week?
It varies so much.
Practice, I mean, I guess?
I would say at least, all combined up, at least 10 hours a week. But when I was gigging, in the summertime, dude, I'm gigging, I'd have 4 standing gigs a week. So I'm playing those, and then a lot of afternoon gigs where I could have 9 gigs a week. And I'm still playing an hour a day. And that was the idea for a while. I got to an idea. I heard this quote one time from George Harrison. And he was saying on a movie called Living in the Material World by Scorsese, documentary he made, George says that I can't imagine how much better of a guitar player I'd be if I wasn't touring and doing all that stuff with the Beatles. I think how busy they were, dude. They didn't have a chance to practice that much.
Yeah.
Just always being pulled from interview to interview, to travel, to gig to gig to gig, to whatever.
I bet.
I was like, man, if I could have anything, you got to ask, if anything could have changed or whatever. He was like, more time. I was like, this isn't sustainable forever, this goal, but I'm going to take advantage of this me time, practice my ass off, and have these gigs close. So I'm not traveling from city to city, but I had the whole day to practice and focus on me, and then go and play these gigs. That's huge. It's racking up all that performance time, because I don't know if you've heard of Malcolm Gladwell, I think it is, but he talked about the 10,000 hours, just if you put 10,000 hours towards mastering something. Now, I'll never master the guitar, but it just, that experience, that time built up is huge.
Does anybody ever master the guitar though?
No.
That's what I'm
just
saying.
like jiu-jitsu. We'll always be students jiu-jitsu. In life, whatever. We'll always be students.
Yeah.
But
which keeps it fun, you know, you're never going to hit that that finish line. You know, you'll always be chasing it, which
Always
is
be chasing it.
kind of a good thing because, you know, if you hit the finish line, sometimes it can get boring after that. You know what I mean?
That would be so boring if you.
Yeah.
But it's like, Randy, you know, Alex's Randy said it pretty well. It's just like I love how she talks about jiu-jitsu. It's just like making it your own style, and that's how guitar or music and jiu-jitsu have that in common. Is like you want to make it your own. Yeah, and you're never going to master it, but at least you can have that to work toward your own presentation of it.
You were doing a bunch of gigs when you were younger, you know, at the Frank's or around the Frank. Was it at the Frank's place or around? Yeah. But when you got back into it in your 30s, when was that one that kind of like we're doing just little bars here and there?
A place called the Poorhouse in Shawnee, Kansas.
Oh, okay.
That's a place, man.
Is it?
Yeah. I've played on and off for years, and I say it's a place because everybody goes to the Poorhouse knows. I mean, people get fucked up, but there's some great people. Yeah, and seen a lot of people come and go from the Poorhouse because it's an older crowd. I'd get there in the afternoons, play for the older crowd.
You still play there?
Kinda. I need to get back over there. It's been a minute, but yeah, I'll still play there. But I remember going there at my first gig. So I was with the ex-girlfriend living at that house and just, you know, kind of a mess and just drinking all the time. I was like, and then we get the guitar teacher. I get the guitar teacher. I'm like, I'm going to get that gig. And so
that had to have been scary, dude. Like getting back into how many years before you booked that gig?
Well, do what?
How many years or months before you booked that gig?
What do you mean?
Your first gig back, like at the Poorhouse.
It had been freaking like 10 years since I've had a gig, probably. At least. Fuck. Well, yeah, about 10 years.
That had to have been nerve-wracking.
And for whatever reason, like, and I know I was nervous. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Just with Frank's, it just kind of works out. Like, yeah. Job, I haven't had
but you didn't get back into it till what, 30s, you said, like playing guitar? Yeah. So then how long before when you started practicing again, how long before you played in front of an audience?
Well, now that I was back into it, and that's a tough question. It's been so many years, but I'd say about a half year. Oh, okay. Something like that.
It's fairly quick.
Yeah. And then taking a little more serious and learning how it was applied on the guitar, these new rhythms and pieces from whether it's like classical pieces like Bach, not that I can play great, but that's universal. If you learn how to read music, you can apply that to piano, you can apply that to your voice, you know, you can sing in different rhythmic structures, sing smarter. So I just became a better, well-rounded musician and started book some weekly gigs, you know, places on 39th Street, Bamboo Pennies and Leewood. Started getting other bigger gigs like Rockhurst, play an annual donor party out there.
And it's just you, or is it you and a couple of other guys?
I was just getting ready to get to that. Met some awesome musicians along the way, like throughout the years, like my really good friend Matt Schoaf, who plays saxophone. Apparently there's two Matt Schoafs. The other Matt Schoaf is this real good guitar player. I've never met him. Oh, really? But my buddy is the saxophonist. He's played a lot of gigs with me. Like just last summer, dude, we had a blast. We went up to Brainerd, Minnesota. His family has a house up there. It's beautiful. Nice. Fucking lake's so clear and just gorgeous and quiet. And we played at a place called, two places. We played at a place called Anchor North, right on the water. And then we played at a place that was shot in the movie Fargo. It was called Sage on Laurel, but it was something else in the movie. Really? Yeah. Huh. I had to play out there on the outside patio. It was sweet.
That's nice, man. Yeah. Yeah. So you guys have been traveling together ever since to different gigs?
And it's just like I got it like almost more of a network. When Matt's available, he's a great dad and he's got a couple kids, so he's busy a lot. But when he's got a night open, he's like, "Where are you playing? I'll come meet you."
That's pretty neat.
And I've been playing with this really good drummer named Anthony lately. I got a buddy, Dylan Johnson. He gigs around town. He's awesome and just got a good network of guys. Huh. So I could play some solo shows. I can just show up by myself, play 3 hours. Oh, really? Or just have somebody sit in with me to cut into the time.
Yeah, how long do you usually play at like a bar?
Standard's 3 hours. And, you know, you start off making like 150. Uh-huh. And then anywhere from 150 is average. I've told about 300. Some places play more. It's usually about 3 hours. Some place will charge you to play 2 hours. Mm-hmm. That's typically how it works.
Really? 3 hours? That's a long fucking time,
bro.
dude.
It can be.
That's a long time.
It really can be. And this is like, you got to keep things fresh too, because.
Are you doing a lot of covers or what?
Yeah, you got to too. And luckily I've been able to squeeze in a lot more originals with some of I write with it.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My friend Rhett Thomas, we write some originals, but and other friends, but for the most part, you're doing covers, crowd pleasers for the folks. I want to make it interesting though. I don't want to play, if you go to a bar, I know they're going to play Last Dance with Mary Jane. I know they're going to play some, which I love those songs, but I want to play some like surprises too.
Do you sometimes try to switch them up a little bit so they don't sound like the original?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I like when people do that.
Yeah. And Bob Dylan, his movie just came out. It's supposed to be great, but I remember him saying that, and he was a big influence. But you got to make it your own.
Yeah. What was the song that like most impacted you? That kind of got you into music. I know it's hard to pick one, but maybe just a couple of them that kind of.
When we were talking earlier about Jimmy, my brother Jimmy, I always go back to that interview with the newscast there in the living room, our old house, and Simple Man being played alongside his poem. And Simple Man's been a huge family song.
Classic, man.
And Let It Be by the Beatles. That's one of my favorite songs of all time.
I never got into the Beatles too much.
I get some people don't.
Because Leonard Skinner sang Simple Man, right?
Yeah. It's been covered too.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
But yeah, I never got into the Beatles. I don't know why. Just
some people don't. I get it.
But are they really the hype that everyone talks about?
And if you can.
What do you think sets them apart?
If I could say this for an example, like me and my guitar teacher will do that. We'll sit and analyze Beatles songs.
Oh, really?
And you could go on we spend the whole lessons just on a fragment of the song, just a fraction of just the brain power it took to do that, and the ingenuity and the originality and innovation. Yeah, the Beatles just like an onion, man, because we could talk about lyrics, or we could talk about chord progressions, and we could talk about just the applying of all these different instruments.
So was it more of the way they played the music, or was it the songwriting as well? Or was it all of it?
Both. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, the songwriting was, they were just able to, add all these add new elements that before hadn't been applied, like Sgt. Pepper's. They're bringing in all these crazy instruments and concepts, and they're definitely.
And you do some songwriting too, don't you?
Yeah,
what's the process like on that?
So, and I'm fortunate to have some friends like my friend Joe Burgandy and good friend Rhett Thomas, who we're trying to work a lot more together. But the song process there's no one clear-cut way to do it. But the way I do it, and I have a process that like shares with Rick Rubin's idea, like definitely inspired by Rick Rubin's ideas or Julia Cameron from The Artist's Way, is kind of like a spiritual approach, bro, is having a belief that our job is to show up and have faith in the fact that there is an underlying source of creativity there. And you'll hear singer-songwriters talk about it all the time. And you just sit down and go through the process. And
is there something you do prior though, like to prep yourself for that? Like, do you put yourself kind of in a room by yourself, or do you listen to music prior, or like what do you normally do when you're getting ready to kind of start writing something, or does it just come to you?
I love the morning, like the first, and I have my morning process is I wake up and I do a lot of breathing, dude, and reading, and once I clear my head and get done through all that meditation and just calm my mind down, I'll just sit there and just play, and whether it's
Oh, so you're playing and coming up with lyrics at the same time, or you kind of keep them separate?
There's several different ways to go about it, but it could be it could be both. I mean, I could sometimes in the morning when I'm just writing an instrumental piece, I'll just play a G chord and just kind of go up and down the scale, and or it could just be like you could be reading a book and one line could just catch you, and then you just expand off that, and you get something.
I totally get that.
I'm having a tough time answering it.
No. It makes perfect sense because it's the same thing when it comes with this podcast. It's like, I don't know a ton of things about music, but prior to like certain podcasts, like if I know what this person does, I'll kind of immerse myself into that. So I'll start listening to stuff, music or interviews or stuff like that. And it's not necessarily like I'm trying to find something, but if something comes out of it, then I write it down. Like, I kind of want to hear about how does he prep for a show? You know what I mean? Right. Or what are some of the things that like having technical issues on stage? Like, how is that like? Because we see you up on the stage and we see you singing and everyone's playing their instruments, but I know behind you guys are seeing. Shit, he missed a note, or something happened with the one of your guys' mics or something. You know what I mean? Dealing with stuff like that and having to overcome that without causing a huge disruption for the show.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'll do. I'll it just kind of comes to me and I'll write it down.
Yeah, and that's what I do too. So I can go through my notes and just there's a lot of freaking first verses. Like there's a saying that the first verse is always the easiest to write, but it's that second verse it's tough to continue the song going.
Right.
Like, I'll fucking be reading a book or something, and something stands out that's cool, and I'll make my association with this and something else. I was like, okay, I got a concept going, and then I'll write that first verse, store it in notes, and sometimes I'll go back to it, and I can think of that second verse and think of ways to expand it, or it could just be sitting there or Frankenstein it and take parts of this song to use for another song,
Yeah.
Another part of, finding ways to come up with your own original songs is through listening and learning other songs. Like,
is it?
Yeah. There's one of my original songs. It's a finger style song. I play more finger style. But I was learning a Bob Seger song before, and I took one part, I made one little adjustment, and then I just, from then on, went a different route. And
is that something that's okay in the music world?
Absolutely. It happens all the time.
Because I was wondering about that. Like,
it wouldn't be played. I even altered that original part.
Yeah.
It just led to inspiration.
Right.
And that could be.
But I hear it all the time in music. You'll kind of hear like a little section of a song. And you're like, what? That section sounds familiar. They got that from and they just kind of bent and twisted a little bit an older song.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I got a good example. Let's remember that when I pick up the guitar, because I got a perfect
Or like even when I've
that.
gotten older, you know what I've noticed too? It's like some of the songs that I listened to when I was younger, I thought they were originals. And then you go back to oldies songs,
Tennessee Whiskey
and you go back to oldies, you're like, holy shit, that was a Smokey Robinson song. Or, somebody from back in the day, and you're like, damn, I thought those were originals growing up. I thought the generation now is copying all. No, they've been doing it throughout history, man.
Well, you know what's funnier? It's more funny is when you freaking think a lyric is one way where it's actually completely different this whole time, and I'm out there singing it. I'm singing the wrong lyric for like 30 times, and somebody comes up and corrects me.
Oh, man.
That stuff happens.
Dude, I remember one time, what was his name from Stained, lead singer? Aaron Lewis.
Yeah.
When he sang the national anthem.
Like
you got a couple lyrics wrong, and they made it a whole big. They did, don't get me wrong. Yeah, you were hired to sing the national anthem, but shit happens, man. Like you're in front of however many thousands of people, dude. You're gonna forget some shit.
Yeah, my shit's so much more forgiving than that.
Well, it's got to be nerve wracking to be in front of 100 people in a bar. Like or 50 people in a bar. Like, that's got to be nerve wracking, man. Especially dealing with everyone drunk and shit. Like, dude, I was that guy one time. I was the guy in the crowd yelling out, "Play Rooster," like fucking 50 times. Dude, finally the lead singer was like, "Hey, dude, we heard you already like 5 times, man. We'll play it. Chill out." I was so embarrassed, man. I was drunk as fuck at the time. It was at the Landing.
But we need you guys though too, because it keeps people engaged.
Yeah, whatever. But sometimes it can get a little annoying. And after
but at least you said Rooster, not Freebird.
Yeah, yo, is that the big one? Everyone's always like Freebird.
Everybody
I love
says Freebird
though.
I love Freebird.
Yeah, dude, 7-minute fucking song, dude. How long
Come
was
on.
that guitar solo, man? It went on forever, dude.
Well, they have the extended and they have the dude. If you ever get a chance, watch Mrs. Muscle Shoals documentary, because that's where that was recorded. And that dude, well, yeah. So I'm thinking of Billy Gibbons, the piano player. He was the roadie, but it shows this documentary captures that him telling the interview that when they were, first of all, Freebird was not. They were like, this is a terrible idea.
Really?
Yeah, these 5-minute solos. This isn't going to be radio friendly.
That's what they told Rogan about podcasts,
right? It's that shit how it goes. But apparently, the band's out taking a smoke break or whatever, and the roadie Billy, I think it's Billy Gibbons. No, that's the freaking ZZ Top guitarist. I'm sorry, but whatever.
Somebody will figure it out.
He's
Search it up.
a eventual piano player. He's in there on break. He's a roadie at the time, but he's just jamming along to the track. Freebird playing back, and they're like, "You're hired," because that piano is so. I mean, the guitars are awesome for the solo, but the pianos. It's just as essential for Freebird as and just in Leonard Skinner, that piano playing is fantastic.
I didn't even know there was a piano.
Watch that documentary if you get a chance. Muscle Shoals.
I'll have to check it out. We were talking about that documentary about that guy with the Crossroads. What was his name again?
Robert Johnson.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. We were talking about that earlier when you were setting everything up. Man, kind of a weird thing, man. just goes out. They said he was a shit player prior, and then goes out and supposedly makes a deal with the devil and comes back and can fucking just play his ass off.
Yeah, man. make it sound like he's 2 people playing it at once.
I know, dude. That's wild, man. I've seen, and as actually when you pointed that out, I'd forgot. Like, yeah, you're right, man. Like, they're not just strumming; they're doing all sorts of shit with, touching strings at the bottom, at the top, over here. I've seen some even turn it over, start smacking the guitar. I'm like, God damn, dude. Like, making so many different noises as if they have a couple of different instruments.
People send me these videos now on Instagram or Facebook, and I'm just like, what some of these players are doing virtuosic is just crazy.
Yeah, that's wild, dude. What, dude, speaking about the bar incidents that we were talking about, what are some of the pros and cons to playing like live events and stuff like that?
Well, some of the pros for me is, first of all, it's just like
an experience. I'm sure
fits, like outperforming fits me like a glove. Mm-hmm. It just feels like I was born to do it. I love doing it. Mm-hmm. It's my way to connect. To be honest with you, bro, I never saw myself being on, like, I was always nervous to be on a podcast like this because I've never been like much of a talker. But if you give me a guitar and let me sing, feels like now I can finally express myself.
Right.
So it's nice to connect with the audience. I feel like I do a good job. It's like there's some psychology in it. There's like reading the room. Like, are these people vibing with this?
Yeah.
I need to call an audible right now.
I know. What do you think that is, man?
It's
just the frequency,
the sense of it. Or just being able to, the energy.
You know how they say like, and I'm going to be horrible at describing this, but that like life is just waves. It's just frequencies. Like what we see is just different, like a bunch of frequencies. When you're playing music, that's letting off frequencies as well. Like, are we somehow communicating with each other and like you're taking that in and feeling that type of energy?
I think there's more communication going on than just like words. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
We're conveying like emotion to the timbre of our voice and just like going back to the pain, and there's more of.
So that's the pros.
There's a depth of
but the cons.
The cons is, man, we could go on talking for a while here. There's the first thing that jumps out in the mind is just there's no buffer, and anybody can come up to you, and thankfully, I think thankfully, maybe there's a big misconception that everybody will just come out and just like mob you if you're not great. But for the most part, people are very supportive.
Yeah.
You know, they're not throwing shit at you or screaming at you. That stuff happens.
Probably depending on where you play it. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. What type of gig you book?
But, dude, I've walked into places. I want to finish this point, but I've walked into places, and it just happened recently, where it's like, okay, I'm an elephant in the room.
Yeah.
They very easily could have been dicks, but they were very sweet the whole time. So that typically happens. People are supportive, but people have issues, right? And people might have mental issues, and there's no buffer. And I've had some scary instances where like people were getting closer than I wanted them to be. And it was very evident that they had mental issues, and you just worry about your own safety, and you're worried about like, do I need to keep my head on a swivel all the time?
There's no security.
There's no security. I've had stories of friends just kind of being stalked just by, and that's how delusional it is. Like, I'm not a big shot, you know, I'm just playing in a family bar sometimes.
Yeah.
But sometimes people get in their head that, you know, things are not, you know, a different reality. And it's just like, fuck, what's the reality? This is kind of scary. How's it going to apply to mine, and what's going on here?
Yeah.
There was an instance where this, you know, somebody just kept showing up, and one time I was like, he was after he started
real quick. Yeah.
Do what?
You just want to stay up on that mic.
Yeah. So
you're good. No, you're good.
After seeing some of his posts on Facebook, how nobody appreciates this guy, and a better little backstory, this guy would always show up at the end of my gigs because I'll listen to you. I'm, you know, try to have a big heart. I'll listen to you, but he would always show up at the end when I'm trying to get the fuck out of there, you know, and he'd just go on and on, and nobody appreciates. And there was one time he was just all out of sorts and just making me nervous. And I was like, dude, do you have anything on you? Like referring to like a gun, like worried he's going to do something. He's like, no, but I do in my car.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And I don't want to harp on it too much, but long story short, he did end up taking his own life, you know, eventually. Really? And it's just like, and after that, it's just like, and it's freaking, you know, it's a bar. People come to drink, and it's stressful times.
Well, you wonder too. It's like, damn, you know, what if he would have took you, you know, with him or something? You know what I mean? Like, you know, if he wasn't mentally there, or, you know, he's a little unstable.
You never know.
You never know.
You never know.
Yeah, that's kind of the bad part about being in the public eye, man. Is that there's some crazies out there.
And I can't imagine for like the big entertainers, because I'm happy to say I'm small fish, you know.
Yeah. Don't you feel kind of bad for them sometimes?
Yeah.
The big ones?
Yeah.
Like, how do you live like that? How do you live not being able to walk anywhere without getting mobbed by a bunch of crazy people?
I couldn't. I found out that wouldn't be for me.
And some people are insane. Like, what? Like, don't get me wrong. I'm sure they love their fans. You love your fans. But some people take it overboard, like you said. They go a little crazy, you know. And I've always wondered, are they crazy already? Or did this turn them crazy? No. Like, what the hell happened? Like,
well, I bet it would be the former, but maybe could have been a catalyst to set some people off to freaking over obsess over some, I don't know, man. But it's a thing. And I found out, like,
because wasn't that who shot Bob Dylan, right? Wasn't it a crazy?
Well, are you thinking of John Lennon?
John Lennon. That's who it was.
Was it Mark Henry Chapman or something?
But wasn't he a crazy fan or something like that, or was it not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he wanted it. Well, he was searching for fame himself. He thought, and he was definitely a huge Beatles fanatic.
Right.
And he could have been pissed that they were breaking up or something, but he was definitely looking for his own fame. I actually have a crazy story about the Dakotas in Central Park.
Sorry about all the noise too. I know you can hear it.
It doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, okay.
Doesn't bother me. Yeah. Could I actually go to the bathroom real quick?
Yeah. Let's take a break. Cool. Okay. All right. Yeah, let's pour it up. Cool. What do you want? You want some tequila here? You want
tequila?
All right. Yeah. No, I don't think it's a good thing to mix, right? Isn't that what they say? Or is that no? That's liquor and beer, right? Remember that old.
It applied for both. Didn't they say something about the brown and the clear is bad idea too?
Maybe, yeah, because it used to be like liquor before beer, you're in the clear or some shit. You remember that old saying? Yeah,
I remember that.
So maybe, if you mix,
and that's the right order too.
Yeah, clear with the dark stuff, it's like Who knows, man?
Are you doing tequila too?
Yeah. I'll do that. Not much of a tequila guy, dude, but this shit's pretty smooth, man. I ain't gonna lie, man.
More my social. It's been more of a social drink for me. I got yeah.
It's good, man.
I'm trying to think. It's very good.
Mm-hmm.
Right when it hits lips. Good for the nerves too.
Yeah.
So
we're talking about Central Park.
Okay, but before I go there, I want just to give you a little bit of one more.
Yeah.
A great way to write a song is one of my favorite ways that I wrote one particular song. I could play it later, but I would go out to, I would gig a couple summers ago. I would gig in Kansas City, Thursday throughout the weekend. But I'd go down to Eureka Springs and just go busk or go play this place called White Rabbit Lounge. But one time when I was coming back, I met this gorgeous girl at freaking 4th of July, and I'm coming back the next day, and you pass the freaking Roaring River, this beautiful river on the way back, and people are out fly fishing and shit. Mm-hmm. So I stopped over, and it's like, I'm going to write a song today. And I had a Mississippi Delta Blues book, just a fucking Mel Bay book that you buy from the guitar store, and I learned a progression in there, and I wrote a song and just nature, and that's the beautiful thing about an acoustic guitar, just writing songs. That's ideal. Just like that's been romantic, and something I've always wanted to do is travel, stop off at a river, write a song.
Right.
That's ideal.
Yeah, man. It's kind of like when I'm on my motorcycle and I take off for like an hour into 2 hours away to some small little town just to check out the scenery. You know, you like soak that in. And yeah, man.
I just did that. I took I got my pup Moody, golden retriever, and found out she tore her ACL. So I went up to Hiawatha for a consultation. I'm going to take her up there in a couple weeks to have her surgery. Yeah. But that was it, dude. I got to go up to northeast Kansas, and I drove through St. Joe, and you drive through these river towns and all the manufacturing facilities. Took me back to the scale days. And then it took me northeast Kansas and just beautiful, fields. And I was up there. I got done with the appointment. Me and Moody stayed in the town for 2 hours, and we tried to play some guitar. Wrote a little bit, just stream of consciousness. That's what I meant to say earlier too. Sorry. It's like, that's part of the process is I'll write 3 pages every day. I got that from The Artist's Way. Stream of consciousness. You wake up, and I'm not perfect about it. Like
3 pages a day?
Yeah, or 30 minutes, whatever.
Okay.
And I don't do it every day. I mess up.
Right. Yeah,
but that's the idea.
Yeah, I wish I would journal more. There's times where I'll journal more, and then there's times where I won't journal for 2 months. So you get on, you fall off, just keep getting back on, man. Keep trying.
That's all you can do.
That's all you can do. Dude, if somebody comes up to me and tells me they've been doing this shit for 15 years and they've been strict about it, I've got skeptical hippo eyes on that shit. Because I'm like, really? Right. You never had some years, where you kind of fucked off? And,
I caught myself. I was really good at giving advice. Hey, just 10 minutes a day, bro. 3 pages a day. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're not doing that every day.
But I still think it's okay to give that advice out. Because I give advice out a lot on this podcast. It doesn't mean that I always do it. I'm not going to sit here. I say all the time, I'm not a saint. Not a saint at all, man. But at least how I look at it, if I can give that advice out, the advice that I was given to somebody else who maybe hasn't heard it or maybe needed a refresher, like, oh, yeah, right. I need to get back on that. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping to jumpstart that person up to, hey,
that's good.
Get your shit back together, just like I do to myself.
Because anything helps, and who knows how helpful that could be at that time and place for somebody else.
Dude, we talked about stoicism with meditations. Yeah. Most of that shit in there is like common fucking knowledge. You read it, you go, yeah, what the fuck am I? Yeah, I should know this. Why am I?
Ain't that funny, dude?
But sometimes you need to read it or you need to hear it to like remind yourself, like. You kind of start veering off the path, and then it brings you back on. Yeah.
Well, 100%. And as I think of one of the first few ones, I think was in the first few books when he's just saying, like, when you wake up, tell yourself you're going to deal with difficult people. Mm-hmm. And man, that's so true. And just to have the mindset, to have the mind frame that you're not going to be dealing with your best friends all day. And it's fucking just a tough world where people have tough circumstances. and you're not going to get along with everybody, and just to have that mindset that you're going to deal with some shitty people too.
That's life too, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we're talking about earlier depression and stuff like that, and depression is a real thing, but a lot of the times it's just life.
Yeah.
You know, it's just life, man. And, you know, it comes at different levels, you know, and you just got to tough it out, man. You got to tough it out. You got to figure it out and figure out tools and ways to be able to handle those situations and get over things and move forward and not to succumb to it. And yeah, there's just so many things out there, you know, just like we said, the advice, like, I don't think you should feel bad at all by giving out that advice. You know, you may have helped a lot of people saying that, even though you weren't following it 100%, you know, all the time, but you still were utilizing that advice that was given to you, and you're trying to spread it to others so that way they can make changes as well.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, man, I mean, it's, you know, I think it's a good thing. What do you normally, like when you're doing the 3 pages a day, like, are there times you get stuck, like on those days, like you said, like you start to veer off? Like, how do you get yourself back on track?
You'll just, for me, it's just like I feel like something's missing.
And if you don't have like a routine or a way, like, be honest, man, just tell me, like, because I'm sure it's probably hard to explain. I'm sure, because it probably varies, right? From year to year to month to scenario to scenario, it probably switches up, right? I'm sure you're not the same way every time.
No. In fact, and going through it, you know, like I alluded to earlier, going through a transitional phase, and I really am like I really do. And it's got to sound funny. And I got kind of stopped in my words earlier. It's a spiritual approach. And now I'm more of a believer in God than ever. You know?
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I do feel like I'll never go on to play worship songs. I don't see myself doing that anytime recently, or anytime in the future.
Yeah.
But it's, I do feel like a lot of these songs that we love are co-written with God. I know that sounds crazy, but I believe that. Like, you were asking about how some songs, the process, like Let It Be, that was written from a dream, you know? And that's the reason those morning pages or the stream of consciousness is so early and important when you first wake up to write it down. So like a lot of some of those masterpieces.
Yeah, I know it's the same thing I get told about, like affirmations and stuff like that. You know, I have a good friend that tells me, you know, do your affirmations in the morning, because that's kind of sets your the pace for the day, you know, like how you're going to be able to go about your day. And it's so true, man. And I'm bad at it. I need to get better at it, but doing it right in the morning, man, that's the best way. Best way to do it. Yeah. It's
just like, and sometimes I'm writing stuff that I'm proud of, and I'm like, this doesn't feel like it's coming from me. This just feels like I'm a conduit. And, you know, Phil Lesh from the Grateful Dead, he just passed on, and he has a quote saying that, just like, and you can go, there's a singer-songwriter podcast that I listen to all the time, and that's just the commonality. It's just like, I feel like a conduit. And I just show up to the page, and now it's debated, whatever, but I'm kind of all over the place, but
nah, you're good.
That's
good,
a commonality, is they will say that it's just like, I don't know, this is coming. It feels like it's coming through me.
Right. It's kind of hard to put into words.
Yeah.
It just comes out.
Not to force the lyrics, but just let them come.
Yeah, let them come. Yeah, because songwriting's got to be a whole nother beast, man. I mean, I couldn't imagine. You know, I could see why it takes
not great
so
at
long.
it. I gotta say that too. It's not like I'm established, but yeah, it's a tough thing.
Yeah, it is, man. Yeah, some people are just gifted, aren't they? Just gifted with it.
I got a couple buddies that are just solid, in a relative way. You know, they are coming up with stuff, like my friend Rhett Thomas and Joe Burgandy. Joe's working on a song right now. He was showing me the progression, what he's working on. Now he's showing me a bridge and what chords. It's just a fun thing to go through with your buddies and collaborate on, and learn from.
You guys practice a lot together?
Not as much as we should. I live in the, we're all close proximity wise. We could, but you know, just
life gets in the way.
Life gets in the way.
Yeah.
I just got off the phone with Rhett today. I was telling him I was coming on the podcast, He's listened to a couple of yours.
Oh, nice.
He enjoys it. He's like, Nanda said, yep, especially when you're talking about the government. Yeah. And he's going to come on too if we're invited back. Yeah. We're going to go see the Bob Dylan movie Wednesday and just kind of get together and talk about our original songs.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Catch up.
Yeah. There's a lot of crazy shit going on right now with all the government stuff right now, man.
All kinds of shit.
I'm ready to see what the next 4 years ends up like. You know what I mean? It's going to be weird.
What are you
Very
expecting?
weird. I don't know, man. There's a lot of push right now for, changing a lot of shit up. Now, some of the stuff I thought was going to change, it didn't. I'm not very happy with some of the people that are getting put in office, but what can you do? You can't have it all, right? I've bounced back and forth between, my libertarian views, like I told you earlier, and anarchy at one point. And, I've always had kind of back and forth on that. I don't know, man. It all kind of sucks, dude. If you think about it, it's all got pros and cons to it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's one way that we could live to where we're not going to have to deal with bullshit, because if you take government completely out of our lives, you're going to have to deal with assholes still, just regular people,
there would be some kind of process, and through that process would be strife and
man.
Find its way in there.
But even like I would hope for small government would make it to where we could kind of have our lives back, without big government, putting their hand in every fucking thing that we do.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the goal I'm going for now. But I just feel like there's always going to be issues here and there. There's always going to be, something. I feel like it's never any. Look throughout history, man. We've had the same bullshit we've dealt with forever. People trying to tell other people how to live, extorting people. It's kind of what we've dealt with even now. So we do deal with it now. Look how much we get taxed every fucking,
100%.
On every goddamn thing, man.
Have you ever read, and it's been a minute since I've read it, so it's not fresh in my mind complete, but have you ever heard of Anatomy of the State?
Mm-mm.
You need to look into it sometime. And that would be a conversation with you and Rhett.
Yeah.
But he sent that on to me. It was just like PDF form on my phone, like 60-page essay. And after I read that, I was like, oh my God.
Really?
Yeah, it was very eye-opening. It was like
just with the inner works of the government?
And like the motifs and just... But that's talking about meditations, how some of these ideas are instilled in us. It was just like, I grew up in a way where I was just like naturally set, just like against that shit, like against authority.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself in a lot of trouble just early, just with that mindset. But it's just like none of it made sense from the right out of the gate.
Yeah. Well, and the problem is too, is that I don't think authority, I guess, could be good in some ways, but not. Like, I just have a problem with a grown man telling another grown man what he can do. And that's kind of what we deal with
his
right
intellectual
now.
property. And that's what me and Rhett talk about a lot with our songs. So we're in agreement with, we just want as little to do with the government as possible and take our own intellectual property and
if I'm not harming anybody, you shouldn't be telling me what I can do with my life. That's how I look at it.
They've had my dumbass. They've had me in the system forever.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's my fault, being put at the wrong place in the wrong time. But exactly, if I'm not harming anybody.
Yeah.
So we're in agreement there.
Yeah. And like I said, the next 4 years will be kind of, it'll be definitely interesting to see. I'll say it to that. I'm hoping for a lot of changes, especially like in health and our healthcare system.
Yeah.
With RFK getting in there, I'm not saying that he's perfect or going to stop, help flip this whole thing around 180 degrees. But, it's, what else do we got, man? Look at all the shit that's in our food. Look at our health. Look, fucking the insurance companies and all that bullshit that's going on with the,
that's crazy.
We've seen that shit with that CEO. We were talking about that on the last podcast, and, people are getting upset, man. We're paying a lot of money for stuff to, be taken care of, and expecting these companies and to be transparent and, the government's supposedly supposed to be helping us with keeping that transparency, and they're not. They're in the pockets with these fucks. And so I don't know, man. I hope a lot of this corruption and, bullshit kind of gets exposed, but, or like with Elon and Vivek and all these guys going after all the feds and stuff. And hopefully, I'm not saying they will be, successful, but at least we're talking about it. That's a start. We're starting to see that, what was it? The IRS or whoever failed like 7 audits not too long ago. So it's like, man, we're seeing the fuckery right in front of us, man. Like, let's start doing something about it. Let's start stripping shit down and restarting and cutting shit in half, because right now it's just too big.
Here's where it's just that I got a question for you. Am I guilty for like shutting that shit out of my life? Just like deeming it like almost like from like an agnostic toward political standpoint, if I could say that. Like, I have no idea the higher workings of what the hell's going on there. So I'm not included on these pieces of information. So my opinion doesn't matter. So I'm just going to focus on music, and I'm going to focus on this small circle of my world and the happiness. And because I've seen the stress that it's put on other
couples. Or the
couples.
division it's called. Yeah.
All the division it's caused, all the couples that have broken up over politics.
Family that doesn't talk anymore.
Family that doesn't talk. Like, what's the line where, how much are you supposed to participate in it? And when are you okay to say this shit shows a broken system?
It's hard to say, because, I was like that at one point as well, where I didn't want to participate in it at all. I didn't care. I was like, well, what is your vote? Doesn't matter. Nothing matters. And then I started to, COVID kind of pushed me into the darker days of like, okay, now they're really overstepping right now. It's really pissing me off. Yeah. And so it kind of led me down that road. And, even they're getting a little loud in-home studio. Even with, dealing with that and, having the mixed emotions on wanting this whole fucking thing to reset and restart. And like I said earlier, but I don't know. Now I think I'm at the point to where I'm participating because I want to change things for my kids. I want to help change.
You have stakes in the game, bro.
Yeah, I have stakes, but I don't know. How do I put this, man? Because I was that guy. I was like, man, I don't want to fuck with it. Just leave me out of this shit. But I feel like then I'm not doing my part.
Yeah.
I'm talking a lot of shit, but I'm not participating. Kind of like George Carlin and how he was. Like, he talked a ton of shit, and like I was believing him, and I still believe a lot of the shit that he said, but it's like, but you were talking all that shit, but you didn't do anything. And I understand his reasons why. He was like, because what are you going to fucking change? Are you really think you're going to fix this big machine that's, way bigger than what we are? Not all of us together, but individually in these small pockets, these small groups, you're not going to be able to go against them, against the man.
Sure.
But I don't know, man. I'm getting to the point where I want to try. Yeah. I want to at least see where it goes. At least say I tried. But am I naive to think that it won't? It could possibly not work. We'll see.
But no, good on you. And what I'm guilty of is, and I deem myself guilty because that whole time I wasn't establishing my own identity, and I think that's important. It was just like, I'm guilty of that growing up. It's like being passive and not.
Well, a lot of us, I think, we're like that too, especially when you're younger. I think when you get older, you have, like you said, a little more stake in the game, or you see a little more clearly of how it's affecting a lot of people. Yeah. Look how many lives have been affected by the government.
Talk about depression. Yeah.
No, like the government has affected a ton of lives, man. And, between wars and all sorts of stuff, man. Yeah. Just the overstepping of boundary, all the laws that they've created to incarcerate people, victimless crimes, man. Yeah. How many people are in fucking prison for weed?
Freaking imagine.
It's insane, dude. And it's getting ridiculous, getting out of hand. I mean, I'm hoping to focus more here with this podcast on the local level. I'd love to have
because that's where the changes can be made, right?
I believe so.
Yeah,
I believe that you affect most local. A buddy of mine post, he talks about this. he's like, man, you're going to make a lot more difference locally than you are federally, which hopefully Vivek, almost eradicates the entire Fed. I'm totally, dude, I've got family. I know people that work for those organizations. I understand that they do good as well, but God damn, dude, do they do some bad as well? Sure. Come on, man. And it's just too big, man. Where's our tax money going? That's my biggest thing. What are we doing here? When people just sitting back collecting paychecks and shit and, getting greedy and corrupt and doing some bullshit,
my mind just set towards just I'm a positive guy, but when it comes to that shit, it's just, I'm speculative and very freaking.
And I was like that as well, but I know there are good people in those positions, in those organizations. The fact is, okay, you're good, but what can you change in there? Just you and a couple of other people. Where's the money? Follow the money. How corrupt is it? We see all these stories, we see all these movies, we see all this shit. And you're gonna tell me all these conspiracies, that they've changed. They're not doing it anymore. I mean, dude, they've been doing it since fucking king and queen days, since fucking emperors. It's all the same shit.
No, that's anatomy of the state. He walks through that.
It's all the same, dude. It's the higher class and the lower class, man. I mean, and that's kind of the route we're headed right now. I mean, I don't know about you. I don't feel middle class at all. I don't even know if there is a fucking middle class anymore. It's such a huge gap and huge division right now. And whether or not that's the government's fault or not, I guarantee you they played a huge part in it, just with the inflation we've seen over the last 6-7 years, so I don't know, man. I don't know if it'll change,
mindfuck.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you feel with this next, election or this next presidency. Hopefully we see some change. I don't know. There's a lot of talk.
I'm happy it didn't go the other way.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. And I wish I was, like I said, I'm guilty of just focusing on my small little world and thinking that's all I could do. And so there's a lot that I need to educate myself on, but I feel like it could have gone worse ways.
Well, sometimes it's hard too, man, because, we all have lives. We all work, jobs. They make it so difficult to be able to keep up with every fucking thing. It's where do you start? You kind of got to pick something. And I wish there was a lot more transparency, but there's just so much involved, man. That's why the biggest push for the libertarians talk about a lot. It's make the government so small that it doesn't affect your life. That's how it should be. I mean, I believe the government should be protecting you from any type of foreign invaders.
Yeah.
And, I guess some common, moral laws, don't kill people, don't steal. Shit like that, kind of common sense shit.
And when it's common sense that this just government's growing, the bigger we get, the more inefficient it's getting. So let's not add more freaking government when it's growing more inefficient.
I know
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I know. Does that sound? If you were a business, would you do that? No.
Right.
So I don't know, man. We'll see what happens over time. Time will tell.
Yeah.
History kind of tends to repeat itself. That's what I'm worried about, man.
Cyclical. And
it's getting scarier and scarier. But I try not to be doom and gloom. I try to have a more of an optimistic view on things and hope that we'll see. Hope that we'll see better, or change.
I am of the mindset, and we kind of talked about it before we started with the government. It's just who knows, man, and I've alluded to it a couple times, and I've done a terrible job of kind of following through and explaining it. But my faith is in God, and
yeah. But I think that's good, man. I think that if people have that, it gives them purpose. It gives them some sort of comfort, in life. And who am I or who is anybody else to say oh, you shouldn't believe in that? That's none of your business, man.
Right.
If it helps me through life, then that's all that matters.
Yeah. And that's but that's a whole subject in itself, that the comfort level, Nietzsche, and I'm not trying to sound smart here. I just heard Jordan Peterson talk about the God is dead thing. he alludes to, and that's the first time I heard people using God as comfort. Like some people might use alcohol as comfort to escape from things. And there's Christians out there that might just like think they have it good just because they grew up thinking that they're saved. But I think there's a difference of that and like, I don't want to get too weird on you, but building a relationship and like truly feeling something outside of just a big personal connection, but seeing like, how do you explain synchronicity? How do you explain like these people showing up in your path at the right time,
right? And
sharing these things and it growing and for the greater good. Or I mean, it's so tough. It's sometimes these conversations are ineffable,
and so believing kind of gives you the answer of why things happen.
Going beyond just the comforting, because the comforting's there. Like I've self-medicated several different ways. I've taken Xanax, I've taken DMT, mushrooms. I've done 3 years of straight up like meditation daily of the Wim Hof and the NSDR, and I found ways that calm I'm always been a freaking a stress job, like a spaz, but I found a way to calm my mind down.
Is that something that's like, do you see that in your family? Is that hereditary? Is that just you?
It's dealing like, bro, like me and all my brothers have dealt with depression. We've all dealt with like hit our rock bottoms, dealt with some freaking stress and but you compare us to somebody that dealt with some real shit. Like hear Joe's story. I'm like, dude, I'm nothing. He's dealt with real life. I don't want to be a sob story, but
nah, man, but it's still your story. You know what I mean? You can't compare to other people.
But your original question was, it was, but yeah, that's the way we see it. I lost track of.
No, was that? No, you're good. You're good. But yeah, no, I mean, you find comfort in religion.
Yes. Yeah. And just,
it's kind of helped you get through
because stuff. It's not I've always tried to rationalize, like, this doesn't fucking make sense. This is too weird. Yeah. Some guy comes and is crucified and whatever, this is bullshit. Yeah. This is a book of morals, right? Mm-hmm. And you try to rationalize it and you realize that this is nothing to be rationalized. This is more for the seeking heart and the people, it reads differently. Yeah. You know, when you try to rationalize something or just you have that seeking heart and you just stop trying to rationalize something that you can not, any human can ever rationalize.
And I think you let go and give to God. You know what I mean? And I'm not that's the fully comfort. Religious person.
That's the comfort, right? Yeah. That's let go of the worry.
Right.
And the fruits of the Spirit and there's, I can't list those out for you, but
I'm sure it's an up and down feeling too, isn't it?
And I was nervous to tell, it is an up and down because you have your moments of doubts, and I'm new to this. I just got baptized last year, but you were talking about the creative process. And I was kind of nervous to say it because this is the first time I'm talking about it, really. But that's it. It's waking up and reading a little bit of scripture. In fact, that's part of the morning process. And that's brought along some peace. And just like, I can see what Nietzsche might say by God is that, and that whole idea that you can find this comfort thinking that your soul is saved and yada, yada. But it goes beyond that and toward, you know, it's almost ineffable. It's just like you say ups and downs because you feel like you might be touched by the Holy Spirit, and then the next day you're down and stuff like that. But in those moments where you do believe that you are, it's there's no peace like and that I can relate with.
And I think it's good. Like I said, man, I think it's good that you found that. I think you needed that at this time, and it's really helped you a lot. I see it, you know, just you talking about it.
It has, and like,
isn't it weird that you kind of almost feel not ashamed, but embarrassed in a sense that like.
Yeah, well, I want it to be real. I don't want it to. I don't want people to think that this is like some sudden thing that came over me.
Like you're suffering kind of from like what's that called? Like imposter syndrome, kind of. Like,
yeah, I definitely am acquainted with that. I learned from that from Joe Rogan podcast, him talking about it. But I've definitely been hit with absolutely. Absolutely.
I wonder why we're like that, because I deal with that
well,
as
me
well.
especially, because I'm I can be honest and say I'm an impressionable person. I can be influenced, but this is not some sudden thing that's came overnight. Like I've been studying the artist's way and that approach for several years, and I've had just personal. And we're going to talk about New York City.
Yeah.
What's it called? Golden Gate, not
Central Park.
Central Park. That's like part of my testimony right there. But as yeah, it's just like I feel awkward talking about it because I'm just an artsy fartsy kind of brain, kind of goofball, right? And some people can just look at that and just say it's a vulnerable person. It's just like, but it's been a journey.
Yeah,
that is found through meditation and through trouble and strife. And
did that journey start in Central Park? Is that what you're kind of alluding to?
No, but that was a key indicator of being in the right. Just being in his path is how I look at it.
Right.
But started off, so playing at the Poorhouse, meet some friends, and over time, and my buddy Rhett Thomas that I write lyrics with, our mutual friend Larry, they both played football for my dad. But Larry flies around the country and he certifies he certifies elevators and cranes technicians. So they all come around the country. They do their tests. They teach the classes. They take their tests. He goes out to New York City once a year, and I got the benefit of going with him twice. A round trip tickets like $5.60 or something with this frequent flyer Mars. I'm staying in a baller hotel in Queens, and company credit card for dinner kind of things. But the first time I show up, I bring my guitar and I bring like a small amp and stuff, and I'm going to try busking for the first time in New York City. And me and Larry go out the next day when we're staying in Queens, Long Island, and he goes over, me and him walk over, and there's a couple guys outside of a restaurant. It's the restaurant owners of this place in Queens. Larry makes it happen where I get to play at the restaurant for a couple hours just outside busking. So that's my first taste of it. But then the next day I go to Manhattan and I check out Central Park for the first time, and I'm just wandering through, and I happen to go upon this section where there's just this solo black guy playing guitar on this bench in this kind of crowded area, and he was playing a Beatles song. And I'm sitting kind of close to him, and when he gets done, he walks over. He was like, "Man, if you got any talent, go talk to that guy." And he was pointing to some guy at the across the way. So I go up and tell him, "Hey, I'm Mark. I'm a guitar player." And he's like, "Give me your number. I might text you." And so I leave there. Yeah, I leave there, and it's just a peculiar spot. I don't really understand what's going on, but I give the guy my number, and that night he texts me, and he was like, "You're playing from 10 to 11. Be back here." And so I get back there, and the guy he had equipment that was playing. So I assumed that I can just go show it with my guitar and I'm fine. And I show up there and I learn that it's fucking Strawberry Fields, Central Park. So it's a place where Yoko Ono, she had dedicated to John Lennon after he got assassinated. It was John's favorite place to go chill out in the park before that Mark Chapman dude shot him. And Yoko Ono had brought in all these flowers from across the world or whatever, made it a living garden, whatever. But I'm finding all this stuff out right before I'm about to go up there. And it's bring your own equipment. Like, I don't even have a pick. I don't have my amp. Like, the only way these people can hear me is if I belt it out in this section outside. I don't even know an hour's worth of Beatles music, I don't think. So I'm kind of freaking out. I'm just like, convince myself to stay. But dude, it went fantastic, and I had to cheat on my phone a few times to look up Beatles songs, but I made over $100 in Central Park in an hour.
I was going to ask, how the hell do you learn all the lyrics for these songs?
Well, I had to look at my phone for just over time. And
is that hard though to read and sing?
It depends on the song.
Yeah.
Like sometimes a storytelling song, like a murder ballad,
it
could be so interesting where it's just easier to memorize than some other different genre song.
Yeah,
it just kind of depends on the song.
I've always wondered, like, when guys are doing cover bands like that, and then they're or cover songs, and they're able to remember all these lyrics. It's insane.
Well,
man.
I mean, our brains are crazy too.
Yeah.
It's just there's mnemonic devices. There's different ways to go about it. But yeah, I mean, I mess up all the time. I think all kinds of singers will mess up lyrics all the time. Oh, am I tangled up?
Yeah, you're good. It's on the headphones.
But at Central Park, at the last second, I'm playing, and somebody comes up and requests a song, and I get the sing along of the whole Central Park singing. Imagine it was just a special moment. But just looking back on that, it's just like, it just felt like it was all synchronicity. I don't know. It could have been coincidence. It just doesn't feel like that.
Yeah. That's pretty neat.
It was special for me because I grew up, Beatles were a big part of my life, and it was funny. I felt like a ditz finding out after the fact that it was Strawberry Fields, and it was cool.
Yeah, kind of like, again, the stars aligned again.
Yeah,
for you. Kind of. Yeah, man, that's crazy. Yeah. Huh. And so after that, how old were you when that all happened?
That was like,
is that recent?
Yeah, it was just a couple years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
A lot of fun.
Yeah. And so how did that speak to you in a way to where, like, you kind of went towards religion on that? Do you feel like that?
Well, I don't feel like I went to religion.
You don't feel like that? You don't feel like you started to see,
hold on. So to speak correctly, yeah, it had always been like a spiritual path with this synchronicity. I was thinking 100% synchronicity. I'm following this book called The Artist's Way, and that's just like, right down your stream of consciousness, force out that inner critic, get closer to God, going to supplying from this river of creativity that we all have access to. We're all these creative beings, and that's our way of giving back. That's the whole idea of the artist's way. But then over time of just like going further and just analyzing, and then eventually coming across the fact that, and I think I started having conversations about more like Christianity, and it's like answering some questions I had to myself. I was like, what's the main things that have kept you away from it? And I realized it's people. And it was like earlier influences. It was never like the word or anything like that. It was just like earlier influences. And just those, and more personal times. Central Park's one example, but more and more. And then tying it to what just the word says with about like sacrifice and like bearing your own cross eventually, and like forgetting yourself and living by those, like the main things, is like, that's when I started to see some changes in my life, and started to feel some things, and
and it probably helped you in a way to where, like, you started kind of living your life in more of a positive direction. So you started receiving that back as well too.
Yeah. And I mean, I was living positively too.
Yeah.
Before, specifically Christianity came in, but this has got me living.
Expanded it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think too, man, like you said, that I'm glad you said it like that. It was people that were keeping you from that. And I feel like no matter whether or not people believe or not, if it makes you happy, I think that people should be supportive on that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And I mean, it's such a hairy topic where you can forgive somebody for not being.
Which is weird. Why is it? Why is it? Who gives a fuck, man? Right. If you believe in the Santa Claus and that makes you happy, if that makes you a good person, if that makes you somebody to where, like, you're going to be a good contributing member to society, then let them.
Sure.
Nothing wrong with that at all, man. I mean, there's all sorts of different religions, different ways to cope with life, in a sense, I guess, to understand life, to understand meaning.
Right.
If you can find that, man, I think that's the goal.
But understanding also, like, those, just like the morals and what's deeply rooted in us, and like hearing that explanation from like C.S. Lewis, is that that's really what changed it for me as I started to read some like some higher thought on it, because some things are so dismissible. Yeah. Like, we have all these people over here saying, yeah, of course, what do you believe in, the Beast or Bunny? I mean, they look upon, there's so many years of separation from it. of Christ's existence, where it's easier to look at it like it's just a ridiculous notion that this dude fucking raised from the dead and yada, yada, yada. And it's just all the years of separation makes it more of a crazy idea. And you have groupthink involved, and it's just so easy to not research, not set all that stuff away and say, okay, I'm going to give myself X amount of time to really study this and come up with my own opinion on this.
Right.
And meanwhile, Jordan Peterson's going on and saying some things about how, I had an idea of Exodus and Genesis, and it's just ridiculous. But until you think of context and think of what's allegory, what's moral, what's history, what's story, what's, parable, it's context. And you look at it from a different light, and then you have your own opinion. You try to get everybody else's voice out of it, and you give it a fair go, and you forget about the rationale part, and you just try to have a seeking heart. And that's, it starts to read a little bit differently.
Yeah. That feeling you had in Central Park, like what could people take away from your music? The way those people were taking you singing the Beatles songs there? Yeah.
I guess it was just John Lennon's Imagine, where everybody kind of came together. It was almost like a...
That's what I'm saying, though. They were feeling that, you know. On some, you're a song, you write your songs as well. Some of the music you were playing earlier before we started, like what are some things that you want people to take away from your music?
It's a good question. And if we can be honest, I'm early in as far as writing lyrics. Like I got a long way to go.
No, that's an honest answer. Like if you don't know yet, you haven't.
Well, it's about, I'll always look at myself now as kind of that conduit. I'll just try to show up and try to see what comes out of me. But it's about what my message wants to be is it's never like had a conversation with my friends, like my life's done in my 20s. I was convinced that I was like fucked up too many times.
Yeah.
And I thought I dug myself too big of a hole. It's just a ridiculous thought. And I think redemption, I want it to be a redemptive message, whatever, a message of redemption.
Right. Right. Well, Mark, hey man.
Hi.
I had a good time, dude.
Yeah.
We sat down, got to catch up since a lot of the times.
Appreciate you finally had me on.
Yeah, no problem, man. A lot of the times, we only get so much to talk, especially now that I don't go in the mornings as much, not really ever now, mainly on the afternoon at jiu-jitsu. But no, it was really cool, man, like seeing in depth, like your life, man, and that's the beauty about people, man. You never know who you're going to run into and just hear this story, man, of the shit they went through and the ups and downs and how they've navigated life and how they've found meaning and purpose. And that's the ultimate goal, right? Is to kind of find meaning and purpose and what makes you happy in life. And man, it was great catching up with you on that. And so that way we don't end it so kind of doom and gloom or so serious. I do have a question though, and I do want to know this. Dream collab. If you had to pick anybody to collaborate with. Yeah.
That's a great
collaborate with. Yeah. I kind of went in, I'm trying to find some questions, man, that kind of bring a little more fun to these conversations.
Have you heard it'd be Mark Knopfler? He's kind of my idol. And
okay.
I say kind of my idol. He's definitely one of my idols. He's from Dire Straits, so that song. It's you get your money in for nothing, chicks for free. You want some in-store microwave? It's money for nothing, or songs of swing. You get a shiver in the dark. It's raining in the park. But meantime, he's badass. He's a great guitar player.
All right, and then 3 albums. If you only had to pick 3 albums, you're stuck on an island somewhere. 3 albums. All right. What are you picking?
Okay. Damn.
Hey, take your time. Take your time, man. I know you got one off the top of your head.
The White Album by the Beatles is pretty solid.
I figured you're going to throw a Beatles album in there.
Yeah. Damn, maybe the band, The Greatest Hits. You know, they were the one that did Take a Load Off Fanny, Take a Load for I rolled into Nazareth. I was feeling badass, man.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm an old soul.
Yeah.
And then let's go with the Grateful Dead, American Beauty.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's good 3 months. Good 3 albums. Yeah. Well, we are going to take a break here.
Yeah.
I want to let you play some of your music.
Absolutely.
I've been dying to listen to it. So
hell yeah.
Let's get all set up and then we'll come back in. Okay.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Thank you, brother.
Whenever you're ready, you just kind of give me the cue here and
let's do it.
We'll get going.
One blood moon fills the sky in the Badlands tonight. On scaffolding, climb so high. Yeah, dead man on a funeral pie. There's no lonely and bone tied in purgatory. On the boneyard of ravaged souls, when the river rises, you pay the boatman's toll. On the calm black waters of the river Styx, there's no redemption here for the lives we live. There's no lost and wandering, a slow burning tide in purgatory. Slow burning tide in purgatory.
That's
good stuff, dude. That was awesome, man.
Here's another one. This was more written by So I remember I came up with the riff and Blood Moon.
Yeah.
Fills the sky in the Badlands tonight, and Rhett came up with the rest. And
nice.
Then all the lyrics were written by Rhett on this one. This is Angels and Demons.
All right, let me fix your headphones real quick, man.
I know we got a lot of equipment around here. Thank you.
That might fit a little better.
Yeah, it's better.
It's our first time, people. Anybody listening? It's our first time we got instruments on the show here.
Right.
Full band.
I gotta give you props though. You're doing this
Thanks,
very
man.
good, Danny.
I appreciate it.
Setup. Yeah, this one's called Angels and Demons, and again, Rhett Thomas.
Okay.
My good buddy.
On the edge of forever, a fallen angel, fair skin and blue eyed, and the angel fell in love with the devil, and all the stars slipped away from the sky. Angels and devils walk among us. Wherein they're clever in disguise. Rapture her heart in secret and breach the walls of her mind. But what he found in a sweet fallen angel, he'd love until the end of time. Oh, angels and devils walk among us. Wherein they're clever in disguise. Devil walk among us. Wherein they're clever disguise. Oh, angel and devils walk among us. They are by the look in their eyes.
You're the man, Mark.
Thank
Dude,
you,
that was fucking badass,
I
man.
appreciate you.
Yeah.
I got to give props to Rhett there, though.
Dude.
Listen to those lyrics.
Dude, that was awesome, man. It's weird having you in person sing that, man. Like right here, you know, just one-on-one, man.
Feel for me too, but
Yeah.
I like it.
It's like I don't know, man, dude. The music just does something, man. It's just, you feel it, you know, especially in like right here. Like it's just me and you right now,
Intimate,
you know?
intimate
Yeah.
setting.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of like shit drowning us out.
Yeah. I can
Bars.
zone in on,
Like
the music.
I got to be happy being ambient sometimes because I know that background noise and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But when music's just like direct, it's
Yeah. It was beautiful, man.
I
Beautiful.
appreciate
Do you have any shows coming up or anything you want to throw out?
you. You know, right now it's just like the goal was when I hit 40, I'm going to take a little breather,
Mm-hmm.
work with my hands for a little bit. My idea right now is just trying to find bigger and better places
Right.
to play, but I'm going to take my time finding them
Yeah.
and just going with the flow, trying to write with Rhett and Joe and just chilling.
Hey, Mark. Well, hey, I wish you much success, man.
Appreciate
You
very
know,
much, dude.
I love your music, and you're welcome back anytime.
I appreciate you.
Thanks.
All right, brother.